And welcome to the Sidebar Cantina, the podcast where we talk about Star Wars, pop culture, viral infections, or whatever the fuck we feel like talking about. I am Mr. Jason Roscom, joining me live via satellite, the the Roger Waters to my David Gilmour, Dave Martin. Hello, Dave.
Hello, Jason.
How are you?
I am obviously not well.
Right. As the viewers can see, you are remote today
Yes,
because...
I do not want to give you the plague.
Yeah.
I stayed home from school today.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's funny, like with my kids, it was like, all right, if you're too sick to go to school, then you can't do any after school activities.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the same with me. I'm like, if I'm too sick to go to work, then I'm not going to be doing any extracurriculars except through the miracle of technology. We can do this remotely, and I don't have
Right.
to leave the house and get anybody else sick. So
That's
here we
right.
are.
Yep. It's a new age.
Yeah.
So what are we talking about in this new age? Talking about new things, brand new things.
Well, I mean, not really. I think we're talking about an album, kids, an
Mm-hmm.
album
Yes.
that turned 50 this month,
Yeah.
and that would be Dark Side of the Moon.
Fucking right.
So
Yeah.
we're gonna break it down.
Hmm? Oh.
I said we're gonna break it down, and then I danced.
I wasn't expecting the happy dance there.
You break it down.
Yeah. So, and we will do that. We're going to break down this album, get into, like, I have a long history with this album and a lot of things to talk about personally. I'm sure you do as well, in addition to kind of breaking down the songs and the theme of the album. And no, what?
All right. Well, Jason has a lot to say about this album. And I'm really, I'm excited to go along with this ride with Jason, to be honest, because
Okay.
I'm telling everybody straight away that I've gotten more out of this album in the past week of listening to it than I have in my other 47 years of existence.
Well, and
So,
it's funny. We're going to get into it, but like just yesterday, I picked out something listening to this album that I like didn't realize before. So we'll get to it as we break it down. But yeah, I'm curious now about your thoughts. But again, we've got all kinds of business we have to get to first.
oh yeah.
And I guess we should probably start off with Patreon, eh?
You you start doing Patreon. You
All right. Well, we'd like to give a
person, you.
huge shout out to all of our current patrons: Frederick Martin, Scott and Kim from the Used and Abused podcast, Ivo G, my wonderful mother-in-law Patricia Goodstein, Nicholas Schaefer, Don Solsky, Shotgun Mark, Nick from Sweet Studios, Frank Kalevich, Dragon Buddy, Kristen Roscom, Catherine Rennick, Wally Frogmore, David Schmuck, Lord Helmet Fire, and our newest patron, Chantal. Got a lot of things to discuss, mainly Chantal. Anyway, if you'd like to consider becoming a supporter, you can find us at patreon.com/the Sidebar Cantina. Thank you again to all of our listeners and supporters. You are the reason why we do this.
Nice.
Camera position.
Nice.
Back to you, Dave.
So as far as sidebar headlines go, Luna Girl's got nothing.
Oh, okay. Well,
Sometimes no news is good news, but she did put that following our podcast, after the weekend, we'll be going live at 2100 9 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, where R2 and special guest Nicole, I don't know why I'm pointing like this. I'm doing it anyway.
yeah.
R2 and special guest Nicole from Used and Abused will be reviewing Ferris Bueller's Day Off, which is a fucking classic.
Indeed, we talked about it here on this show.
Absolute fucking classic.
Last year?
I don't remember because there's an anniversary last year for it, I think. So, so hop in the chat.
When we did it.
Show them some support. More Red 5 stuff after the show.
So, little sidebar. I I got a little shit from Kristen last week after the show because apparently perhaps when you were telling the story about your friend who had passed away, and I kept interrupting you with the 94 drops, apparently that was a little insensitive of me. So I thought it was hilarious, but I mean, meant no disrespect to anybody, but
I know you didn't, Jason.
It was It was fun fucking with you,
Yeah.
but I did get some shit for it afterwards. So,
Well, that's fine. I did not take any personal offense to it. So,
right.
but I appreciate that Kristen was looking out for me.
Yeah. So, before we get into our weeks, you had a couple of fun little facts. This is normally where our day in Star Wars goes, but since we're talking about albums, CDs, music, Dark Side of the Moon, things of
So
that nature.
75 years ago, yesterday, right? Today is the
27th.
27th.
Mhm.
75 years ago, yesterday, Chuck Yeager broke the speed of sound.
Mm.
Which doesn't have anything to do with the Dark Side of the Moon or music, but has something to do with sound, right? So
Sure,
sneaking
yeah.
in there. And I mean, I'm a huge aviation nerd, so it's kind of like it's just one of those events in history that just goes, it moves the needle for where we legitimately in aviation thought that no, we can't build an aircraft that's going to break the speed of sound without it destroying it.
Right, yeah.
And then, you get a guy like Yeager with a broken arm goes in there and fucking because he fell off his horse and he fucking gets drunk, chases his wife, has a horse chase with his wife, fucking falls off his horse, breaks his arm, and fucking goes up there and climbs out of a B-29 and drops and goes out and breaks the fucking speed of sound in Glamorous Glennis 75 years ago today. And look, I've as I've gotten older, I have mixed feelings about the man. When I was I don't know, I think I was a staff or a tech sergeant. We were at one of the McGuire air shows and I happened to be working the air show and I was helping to corral the Civil Air Patrol kids. And Yeager was one of the star attractions, right? General Yeager. And he was such a dick to those kids.
Really?
He was such a prima donna. And it just ruined my opinion of him. And then but I found out later that he was like he's been cool with other people, so I don't know, maybe
he's having a bad day.
Yeah, maybe his G suit was too tight. I don't fucking know. But yeah, 75 years ago today, you had one of the pioneers of aviation broke the sound barrier, and honestly, without that, if you're not into airplanes or flying, without that event on that timeline, you don't get to the next things. You don't go to the moon. You don't.
Yeah, these are milestones, right?
Yeah.
These are milestones that humanity has to hit in order to get to our ultimate goal, whatever that may be.
Get through those technologies and back then when you ran into a certain thing like, okay, here's what the math supports, and now we're just going to have to fucking put somebody in a piece of metal and throw it to see how fucking fast it'll go with rockets. Light that shit up and let's fucking go. So 75 years ago today. The other anniversary that caught my eye, and I think this was on the 18th, so we kind of missed it.
Okay.
But when I was researching for something else, the compact disc turned 40 years old back on, I think it was March 18th.
Okay. So that would have been
40 years of the compact disc.
Yeah. And I know. So yeah, that would have been 83. And, back then, most of us were still on cassettes, some people on records. I even knew some people in the early 80s who still had 8-track players. So we weren't quite ready yet for that, because I know I didn't get my first CD player until 91. 91. Yeah, for my birthday. So almost 10 years later, 8 years later. So, but yeah, I mean, it had to start somewhere, right?
I think we've talked about it before. Like my dad was kind of an audiophile, and he got a CD player probably right around when it had come out.
No
so
shit.
It would have been like 83, 84.
They were probably like $1,000 or $2,000 at the time.
I'm sure it was not cheap. and probably as much as it cost to buy a fucking computer when they first came out. Because I remember that thing was like $4,000, some fucking ridiculous amount of money.
Yeah.
So, but I remember distinctly because it was part of it became part of the stack in his stereo setup,
Mhm.
where everything kind of tied in because he had the dual cassette deck, and then tied the fucking CD player into the cassette deck,
Had
so
like an
that
input switch or something
oh
to switch
yeah,
between them,
it
and
had the whole fucking thing, and me at what was I in 83, 84, fucking 9 years old, 8, 9 years old.
mhm.
um it was still like all magic to me. And at the time, he had a 4 speaker teak sound system that was he picked up in Japan
Damn.
from like when he was in the Navy, coming back from Vietnam. And the thing was fucking top of the line, man. It was one of those systems where when you were listening to it, you were getting the best sound you were going to get. So
Mhm.
it was pretty fucking cool. So yeah, 40 years now. But here's what's really funny about that, right?
Mhm.
So we're talking about Pink Floyd and Dark Side of the Moon, and that was came out 50 years ago, and that would have came out as an album, right?
Oh yeah, 100%.
So then we have compact discs come out 40 years ago, probably get popular. Most of us exposed to it in the 90s, right?
Mhm.
We've watched this technology now. We watched it like mature and now go to pasture,
Yeah, yeah. Go
right?
basically to obsolescence.
Yes, like we've watched it go through the entire cycle now.
And I'm trying to think of when the last time I bought an actual CD was, and it was probably something like '06, '07, something like that. And I can tell you what it was too. I can tell you the last CD that I ever bought was a Weird Al Yankovic CD, the one where he had White and Nerdy as the
Nice,
title track.
nice.
That was the last compact disc I bought before I just went 100% digital.
Wow, I can't. I was an early adopter of the digital stuff just because it was easier than I did a lot of burning
Oh yeah, same.
uh, and put stuff onto CD,
Hmm.
but actually buying a CD, like, very rare. Although I will say that one of my favorite versions of Gershwin's Rhapsody in Blue, there's two CDs, right? Where
Hmm.
this is a where yes, I see in the chat we haven't gotten to our weeks yet.
Yeah.
This is an important. We're talking. It's a music episode. This is about the CD. It's a big milestone.
Hmm.
You're going to suffer through it,
Yeah, the last physical media
right?
of music consumption that we'll ever have.
So there's two CDs that I like absolutely, like, I own, and I wish I could. If I come across another copy of it, I will cherish it in its most pristine form.
Hmm.
One of them is this particular version of Gershwin's Rhapsody in Blue. It's an American in Paris and Rhapsody in Blue. It's only like 3 songs that are on this CD.
Okay.
And this particular version is, to me, the best version of Rhapsody in Blue. Like, I literally have a playlist. I have an Apple Music playlist of it's called Just Rhapsody in Blue, and it's, dude, no lie, it is probably 18 different versions
Yeah.
of it, and out of that 18, none of them are as good as what was on that CD.
I'm actually
Like,
like that with Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, the finale of the Ninth Symphony. It's there's like one version that I think is the absolute best, and everything else is shit.
yeah, and I don't know if there's probably something to be said about it being, maybe that was the first I had been exposed to it, so that was like the baseline, and nothing has ever really gotten better than that.
Hmm.
But to this day, yeah, no shit. Lamar Jackson's requested a trade. He's a piece of what a dumbass. Um,
That's breaking news. I thought that was already known.
Ian Rappaport just put something on Twitter about it.
Oh.
I got to shut off my notifications.
Hmm.
Um, no, the fucking there may be a recency bias there, but I can tell you that I've listened to hundreds of different versions of it, and I still I'll put that CD version up against it every time. Now I have that CD, but it has beat the shit. Like
Mm-hmm.
it is just something that has been in and out of a fucking CD case, a jewel case. It's been in and out of a fucking a CD wallet,
Have
so
you
many
ripped it?
times.
Like ripped it to an MP3 or anything?
So if I have, I don't have a clean copy of it.
Mm.
And that's part of the problem. So I've been searching for this fucking CD and I haven't been able to find it.
Oh,
The
that
other
sucks.
one is uh, my parents had this CD, and again, this is early and when CDs first came out, and it was called Earth Sounds.
It
And
sounds familiar.
so
I think I've heard that before.
this one guy. He recorded. Basically, he developed a microphone that was in the shape of a human head, right? So
Okay.
he would stick this head that had microphones like where the ears are, and he'd put it in places where you like hear these natural sounds. And one
Mm-hmm.
of the ones that he had one in nature, like thunderstorms and shit like that. But one of them was for the ocean,
Oh,
and it's like right there on the beach in the ocean. And holy fucking shit, if it's not like you put that on and close your eyes, and you have headphones on,
mm-hmm.
it's like you're right there. It's like you can taste the salt of
Nice.
the fucking air in your mouth. Like it's like being in the fucking Matrix. Like the guy did a absolute remarkable job of recording this audio and keeping that level of fidelity. And it's a great CD. And I have a copy of it, but it's beat the shit.
Right.
So if I find those, and of course the any of the Star Wars ones, because right now I don't think I have any CD of the Star Wars um, soundtracks.
See, I'm in the complete opposite boat. At least for the original trilogy, I have like 3 different copies on CD. Like
Yeah,
I had the ones they did for the special edition, the one they did before that for like the remastered edition, and yeah, I've got
yeah.
multiple copies of the
See,
OG trilogy.
and I have that on vinyl,
Oh
and
damn.
it's because, and again, this kind of leads into more of the, what we're talking about with Dark Side of the Moon, but vinyl to me is one of those mediums that has you're recording sound in perpetuity because of the way that the sound is actually put on the vinyl.
Mm-hmm.
You can mechanically listen to a piece, listen to the vinyl.
Yeah, I was blown away the day somebody just like we had a record but no record player, and somebody I knew just took a fucking needle, tied it to a piece of paper that they had wrapped into a cone, fucking spun the record, stuck the needle on, and you start hearing the fucking sound. I'm like,
Yeah,
whoa, you're a
yeah.
wizard.
Yes, but that's that thing, like in the apocalypse, like how does something like this live on? It's because you don't need the electronics to make this make sound. You'll always have this.
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons I want to. I've said this before. I want to have all of the Star Wars on vinyl. Find me the fucking Phantom Menace on vinyl. It doesn't
Ooh,
exist.
that's probably pretty tough. Yeah.
It doesn't exist. Like, so the best chance I have at getting that to save it forever would be on CD.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, CDs being 40 years old, the chances are if you have a 40-year-old CD, probably not in great shape.
Yeah, because I always heard that CDs had like a half life to them.
Yeah.
Like even if you kept them in perfect condition in a case, in like the perfect environment, they're still going to just naturally break down over the years. I always
Yeah.
heard that, but I haven't seen that with any of my CDs, and I've got CDs that are like pushing 30 at this point, or over 30.
Yeah.
So
And I don't know, it's probably dependent on what the actual like medium that's on there. And, maybe data CDs like are,
mm,
because of what's the amount of data that's on the CD, maybe that helps make it lose some of the mechanical ability of it to retain it.
yeah, I could
But
definitely see like CD-ROMs, like games and stuff, those deteriorating quicker than music.
yeah, for sure. But anyway, we dwelled a lot on that my extra shit, but
Yeah,
yes,
that was a 20-minute intro we just had right there.
yeah.
That's
But
impressive.
CDs are 40 years old, so
Yeah.
that's what you get.
That's very important. All right, let's hop into our week, shall we?
Let's.
All right. So normally I have an addition to the. Oh shit. Hang on. Normally I have an addition to.
Sacred Jedi.
But
Don't do that to me, Jason.
sorry.
Oh
I know
God.
I know you're fighting off some germs.
Oh my
but
God.
yeah, I had some stuff ordered. It was supposed to come in on Friday. Had this UPS tracking number. It's like, yeah, your shit will be here on Friday. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, cool. Awesome. Doesn't show up on Friday. I go track it again. They're like, oh, it's been moved to Saturday. I'm like, okay, whatever. It shows on Monday. Saturday comes. Nothing. I'm like, what the fuck? So Saturday night, I track the thing again. Oh, sorry. It'll be there Sunday. I'm like, okay, we'll see. Sure shit, does not show up on Sunday. I track it again. Now it's Tuesday. I'm like, thanks.
Yeah,
UPS.
I hate that shit. I fucking when Amazon promises you a day and it doesn't show up that day, I write it off forever. Right? I feel like an 8-year-old. Like, nope, it's never coming. It's never gonna be. Well, that was not a good idea.
What are you doing over there?
There's-
We're all messed up because you're remote today. But yeah, so next week I will have some additions to the Sacred Black series, hopefully. Besides that, so I was hanging out with some friends, my friends that I hang out with pretty much every weekend these days, and they have one of those VR headsets.
Right.
And they've kind of like gotten me to mess with it a little bit. You know, I've been, quoted on the show as not liking VR, thinking it's just a fad, it needs to go away, blah blah blah.
Right.
And I never really gave their VR much of a thought, but then they like really kind of forced it on me. No, they're like, no, you got to try this. And I started trying it. I'm like, okay, I can see the appeal. I played this rock climbing game, which is fucking awesome because it's like you're in like a realistic, you're on like a cliff. You're looking around and you can see it and you're fucking climbing these rocks and you've got to like follow this path and you've got to hit a goal that's like over on this other fucking rock somewhere over here. So you got to like crawl down, you got to jump across this little chasm and like fucking keep climbing. It's actually, it's a lot of fun, believe it or not. I know it sounds ridiculous, but it was a lot of fun. Then they got this exercise game. It's called Supersonic. And it's basically, you've seen things like this before, I'm sure, in ads and stuff where people have like two sticks that kind of look like lightsabers and they're like slashing up and to the side and down. Yeah. And this combines that with like leg movements, like squatting and then like shifting to your left or shifting to your right while you're squatting and doing fucking swinging at the same time. And it's supposed to be like a workout. I had done it for like 2 minutes yesterday and I'm fucking dying. So I'm like squatting and like standing up and slashing this thing and you have to slash in specific directions. And it was fucking crazy, but it was a lot of fun. And I did a 10-minute workout and like my legs are sore today from doing that. So I'm like, okay, that was a lot of fun. And then they sprang this one on me. They got the Vader Immortal game.
Okay.
The Darth Vader VR game that came out a couple years ago. I think we briefly touched on it.
Yeah, it was like their launch. I think it was their launch game, wasn't
it? Yeah. And I played that. I went into the lightsaber training room, and it was fucking awesome. Like, it was so much fun. And I'm at the point now where I'm starting to price out these VR headsets. I'm like, I think I have to have one of these, And again, I fully admit that I was the biggest naysayer of VR for the longest time, but I fucking loved it, especially when I played that Vader game and you pick up the fucking lightsaber and you're holding the fucking the stick and and it's like, oh my God, this is like everything I've ever wanted. Yeah. Now, this is what I wanted when the Wii first came out. Like, all I wanted was for them to come up with a game where like the Wii controller was your lightsaber and it would like mimic your movements, and the Wii was kind of like shifty and not too accurate, but this is fucking awesome.
Yeah. I think I'm pretty sure Swede had brought in his VR before he left where we work now. And I did it for the first time, and I was doing, there's this a space shuttle landing simulator they have like on the iPhone, and they had it up in VR. And I think Swede's in the chat, so he can let me know if I'm lying or not.
He did mention that Vader Immortal was great. So
yeah. Which I didn't get a chance to try that when he had brought it over. because I wanted to do the space shuttle lander. And dude, it was amazing. Like, because the only thing I didn't like about the space shuttle lander was that you're kind of you're not in the cockpit. You're in like the space.
Mhm.
So when you're looking around, like you're looking around and you see everything like the shuttle's not there,
Mm.
right? But
Okay.
because of that, you're like Wonder Woman, right? You're flying the invisible plane,
Right.
but you have all the physics that you're battling of the space shuttle because it's not an airplane, it's a glider, and
Mhm.
it's the worst glider ever. So making a landing attempt at KSC, was fucking challenging,
Oh, I
and
bet.
getting motion sick from fucking like looking around like a fuck. Where's my visual aids?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it
Well,
was a challenge.
when I play that rock climbing game, because it does like 360 degrees, full sphere around you. You can see everything, and when you're standing on these platforms, you're like in this game. You're like 400 feet in the air on this platform looking down, and I'm like seriously like looking down, and I'm like edging really close to the thing, but I'm like just looking down, but I don't want to get too close because I feel if I step too close, I'm gonna fall.
They make
Like
your
it's
butthole tighten up a little bit.
yes,
Yeah,
I was scared. Like I'm looking down, like, and in the back of my mind, I know that I'm just like standing in the middle of their living room, but it
right.
feels like you're really there, looking over a fucking cliff, and if you make one wrong step, you're fucking dead.
Yeah, like you
So
just took the red pill, right? It's like
yeah, yeah,
Jesus Christ. Yeah, dude, I'm right there with you. Kathy had asked me actually this Christmas about whether or not I really wanted it, and because I'm been doing the master stuff, I'm like, God, am I really going to use it?
yeah.
Because those same systems will interact with Microsoft Flight Simulator. And
Ooh.
I mean, I have Microsoft Flight Simulator. I have the fucking yoke, the I got the whole shebang bang. If I
Mm-hmm.
put the VR attached to that that makes a pretty realistic flying
I'd say
situation.
so. Yeah. Okay. Maybe something to think of in the future once you finish your master's degree.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
so yeah, I'm now pricing out headsets. They have the Meta Quest 2. That's the Facebook's one, and it's got a pretty robust marketplace and a lot of fun looking stuff. So I'm thinking about
Yeah.
it. Besides that, last week I actually saw a therapist for the first time.
Awesome.
Yeah. So so back up. Few years ago, right before COVID started, I was seeing a therapist, and I did not like the guy. Like,
Right.
I felt like I got absolutely nothing from those sessions, and it really seemed like a waste. So when COVID happened, he's like, "Well, do you want to continue our sessions virtually?" I'm like, "No, I don't really feel comfortable with that. We can just talk again when COVID's over." And I never talked to the guy again because, again, I didn't find it very helpful. So, now when I'm in this current state that I'm in, they one of I had some issues. We'll just say back in December, I had a bit of a breakdown. And part of the condition of me leaving the facility that I was in was seeing a therapist on a regular basis. And it's taken till now to finally get one because apparently they're backed up like fucking crazy.
Mm.
Apparently, like therapists are like so overbooked right now because like apparently we're all fucking nuts. So yeah, but I finally was able to get somebody, and it was the Wounded Warriors that actually hooked me up with this person,
Nice.
because I tried to go through a bunch of different avenues. Even the place at the hospital like gave me a referral for, never fucking called me. So yeah, I finally set it up with this person, and she's like the greatest person. I could already tell after sitting down with her for an hour that this is going to be so much better than anything else, and it should be good for me because yeah, have some things I need to work through for sure. And she said too, after I talked about myself for like 15 minutes, she's like, yeah, you've probably got some pretty serious PTSD from your time in the military, and maybe even some stuff from before the military. So
Yeah.
it's like, yeah,
Well,
okay, I can see
I'm
that.
I'm so happy that you've yeah, I'm so happy you got there.
Yeah,
Honestly. It's because it's super, super important to be what the hell was that?
that beep.
Yeah, what was that?
I heard a very light beep.
Anyway, that was weird.
Everything's fine. We're fine. Everything's fine. How are you?
Everything's fine here. I am having a stroke. Um, no, look, it's so important to have a good relationship with a therapist. You know, if I went through the same thing, man. I had therapists where I'm sitting there and I'm like, I'm not myself. You know, I am not. What I'm doing is I am sitting here and I'm processing this interrogation, and I'm like I am employing techniques to kind of counter whatever it is that you're doing. So now
Right.
it's an exercise in my ability to fucking fuck with you than it is with me, and
Right.
it's just stupid. And finally, I got somebody that I worked really well with, and then unfortunately he fucked off and then went to another state. So now I have somebody new, and thankfully we are also compatible. He had recommended her to me.
Okay.
So important. The thing to put out there for everyone else is like you talked about, you had a bad experience. You get out there and you find one that's going to work for you. It's not that like, oh, this fucking sucks, I'm never going to. No. There's somebody out there that's going to listen to you and go like, wow, that's fucked up. Let's work on that.
Yeah.
That's the person you want to be talking to, and that's the person you're going to find. And they're out there. They're out there. Trust me. You know, it may not. It may take a couple times, but you'll find them. Sorry, my ADHD is real bad right now.
I can tell. Like, you cannot hold still to
I
fucking save your life.
Cannot. Sorry.
So
If you're watching on YouTube and you see that I'm like playing with the lights and doing all shit.
Yeah, well, but that's
Look, I look at my face. Like why am I all blotchy like this? What is wrong with me? I don't know.
How much time you got?
Not enough. Not enough, sir.
Yeah.
Anyway, good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good talk. Good talk. But that's my week pretty much in a nutshell. What about you, sir?
Whatever. It's fucking the plague. I got the plague. It was going around in the house.
Yeah, not COVID.
So it's not COVID. Tested negative. This weekend sucked, which sucks too because it was so fucking nice out yesterday.
Yeah.
I wasted it feeling like shit and felt like shit this morning. Today I felt a little bit better. I stayed home from work, which helped, I think. But yeah, I'm like not functioning 100% right now. But like I said, I'm preventing this from passing to you.
Yes.
I don't want to give this to you.
And the Roscom household appreciates it.
Yes, I'm here for you. But yes, my ADHD is fucking terrible right now. As I go into my drawers, this is the problem. I'm like around all my own stuff. So all my stuff is right here. I'm like, oh, I know that thing is in my drawer right here. So I'm gonna go in here and I'm gonna get it.
So now is the best time to do that.
Right now. I was on my phone playing with the lights. Because all my lights are controlled by the fucking Alexa devices.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, yeah, I'm a fucking mess.
Oh, I can tell.
but.
Wait, why is Swede having surgery?
Oh, he's getting shoulder surgery.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, his shoulder's fucked.
Oh, well, best of luck, sir.
Yes, this is not his first one. So he's been through this before. Yes, best of luck. That's why he was getting some YouTube stuff finished before surgery complete.
Yeah.
I did this week get some sacred Legos.
Ooh.
Which we need to work on a drop for.
Yeah.
I know we've been talking about it, but we need a fucking Lego drop.
I know.
So I was on eBay and we were watching the Bad Batch for the show, and I'm like, man, that fucking ship. I've grown to really like the Bad Batch ship.
Yeah.
Just watching it, I don't know. I've just grown to like it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, man.
Well, because it's like an early version of that Lambda class shuttle.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it just has a little more personality. So I found it in Lego, and I'm like, man, it was just fucking $140 to $170 no matter where I was looking.
Mm.
And so I found one. It was on eBay for like $45. I'm like, fuck it, I'll watch this one for a while.
Yeah.
I put in a bid for it. And it was incomplete, right? It was like, incomplete, no minifigures, and it was like minifigures, and it comes with this which I think I took them apart already, but it comes minifigures and these speeder bikes, and I'm like, that's fine, whatever, for a third of the price or less, I'll still get the ship, then I'm fine with that. Because honestly, the minifigures is where all the money is with these Legos.
Did it come with the whole batch, like Omega and everybody else?
No, so this is like pre all that. This is like this was retired a while back. So this is actually from 2021.
Oh, so it's that same style of ship, but not the one specifically from the Bad Batch.
No, it's the Bad Batch, but when it first came out, like very like spoiler free, like no Omega, just the Batch.
Okay. I see.
So I got it, and it's fucking awesome. And I just shot the screen, which is not.
I thought you were about to drop it, which
no, I shot the screen, and the fucking the wings come down like this, and it fucking kind of looks like a Klingon warbird, but I'm not gonna,
don't want to cross the streams.
I don't want to cross the streams, but
one day we will talk Star Trek on this show, but not today.
Yeah. It was a cool build. I like how they did some things. Like if you look at here's the aft engines, right? Little clamshells to fucking, cover up the engines like thrust reversers. Very cool. And then you open up the top like that, and it's got the compartment for the batch to sit in. If you're a member of our Discord server, you would have saw the pictures after I posted them.
So how long did that take you to put together?
A couple hours. I think like maybe 3 hours.
Okay.
Because I was actually watching Mandalorian and Bad Batch while I was doing it, so I was somewhat distracted. Yeah. And so here's what's funny. So when it shows up, it comes in a regular post office box, and it wasn't supposed to come with all the stuff. It was supposed to be missing shit.
Right.
However, it came 100% complete with the instructions. The only thing it didn't have was the fucking box. So I got all 5 of the figures.
What? Get the fuck out.
Yeah.
Nice.
These guys are...
Put them closer.
These guys are awesome. Yeah. Let's see if I get more light on it.
Yeah.
No, that's terrible, Dave.
Oh my God.
My lighting situation is not good.
Yeah, I can tell. Oh, that's sweet though. Like tilt it forward a little bit so we can see the guys in the back. Oh, that's good stuff.
Yeah, I just stacked them on a little plate.
And is Wrecker actually bigger? Like, does he have a bigger chest piece?
So he's got like this shoulder pad thing on.
Oh, okay. And he
covers. All the faces.
There,
I'm gonna help out with some light because I have 15 flashlights right by my. Let's see if I can help. Does that help? That doesn't help at all.
That's worse.
Now it looks like Close Encounters.
Yeah.
Nope.
It's all right. I think we get the gist, but they do look sweet.
Yeah, the helmets are fucking cool. It came with, Knives has the fucking, Hunter has the fucking painted face and the whole thing. It's just,
of course,
very, very cool. And it had the speeder bikes and everything. It was a complete set.
So it wasn't missing anything.
No, for $45 fucking dollars.
That's
I got this fucking thing. So
thank you, eBay.
I was like so fucking happy when I opened it up, and I'm like, oh, here's bag 1 has all the fucking shit in it, including the minifigures. Because that's what'll happen. There'll be a lot of people that'll get these things, so cut the bags open, get the minifigures out, and then reseal them, sell the fucking the rest of it.
Right, because they were just in it for the minifigure.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And no, I reap the benefit of what may have been a mistake or maybe not.
Yeah.
I don't
Of
know.
course, if they message you and be like, "Hey, we sent you the wrong stuff," you'd be like, "No hablo inglés."
Yes. I pretend like I'm John Wick or some shit. Come take him out.
Right.
What was the other thing?
I don't know. Did you write it in the notes?
I did. I wrote something, but I'm surrounded right now by Lego fucking ships because I'm just gonna bring these guys into the studio.
Ooh,
'Cause
very nice.
I had him hanging up on the ceiling,
Uh-huh.
little Obi-Wan with R4,
Yeah, yeah.
sending a message to the old folks home. Then followed by a little Boba Fett.
Oh,
Some Slave
very
One.
nice. Is that Boba Fett or Jango Fett?
No, this is Boba. This is
Okay.
Boba Fett in the Mandalorian.
Okay. I thought you were having like an asteroid chase scene like from Attack of the
Well,
Clones.
I did. So like right here, as I shake the light some more, right here is where they were hanging. If you
Okay.
see where my hand is.
Yes.
Wait a minute. Right there.
Okay.
Here.
Where? All right.
See how there's a
TIE
there's a
fighter
TIE
and X-Wing?
fighter X-Wing
Yeah.
there?
Yeah.
They were up there. And I had Obi-Wan kind of inverted, like
Mhm.
close to the ceiling, and then I had Slave One kind of like trailing behind
Okay.
with one of the bolts coming out. So it was cool, but my daughter got that tattoo of a TIE chasing an X-wing on her shoulder, and I wanted to kind of replicate that.
Oh, okay. Nice.
With those, so I actually bought a new TIE fighter.
Of course you did.
To go with because I needed another one.
Of course.
I can't take from the display that's right in front of me that has potentially 18 or 19 TIE fighters on it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
No. We can't that's that. This
Right.
This was special for that. So I dropped the bolt.
Uh-oh. It's not good.
So the other thing, the last thing on my notes is I just put about disconnecting.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry if this is distracting. Like many middle class Americans, I have an Apple Watch, and I found that it's too much.
Yeah.
It's too much connectivity,
Mm.
and it was starting to get to me, where I was like, I just like I don't know, I don't want to be this connected.
Yeah.
I really don't. I don't want it to go to the level of like when I'm looking at, I just want to see what time it is. I think we talked about this before. Like I've worn a watch like basically every day of my life since I was like 12.
Yeah.
So,
For as long as I've known you, you've always had to have some kind of watch.
Yeah, I can't walk right unless I have a fucking watch on.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the fact that I don't know. It's just like there's a point where like I'm gonna keep that phone. I can know the phone went off. I'm just gonna keep it in my pocket and get to it when I get to it. There's nothing that fucking important that I need to look at it even just for that moment.
Right.
And I found like it was kind of
You just fart.
howdy.
I just heard. It's like a horn.
I wonder if that'll show up on the actual like on the recording
On the audio.
like show it.
I hope so.
Show
I
a little
sure hope so.
A little spike. No, it's just one of those things where I was just like, God damn it, I feel like I'm just it's just too much. It's just too much. I want to have the ability to just sort of not have this thing fucking dominate myself, and I appreciate the technology. I really really do. I mean, it's amazing tech, and I want to be able. I want to be able to control what I see maybe a little bit better if I'm going to wear it full time or not wear it. The phone is enough. This phone, this device, this supercomputer we have in our pocket is enough.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, and it can get to be too much.
yeah, and I just felt like, you know what, as much as every time I go near my Apple Watch, it tells me, "Hey, I'm fully charged." Yeah, okay, good job. You're doing your
Right.
stuff. Um, it just was too much.
Yeah.
So, but that being said, it's not like I'm not making a deliberate effort or any kind of commentary on disconnecting at all. It's more about um it's more about just being cognizant of the fact that we're online all the time.
Right.
Like,
And there's like a whole world in front of you if you look up from your phone or your watch.
yeah.
And yeah, and I mean, we've talked about this too when we talk about taking breaks from social media and stuff like that. It's the same
Yeah.
basic concept. It can just get to be too much, and you can really like lose yourself in it if you let it happen.
Yeah.
And I think you lose a lot when you do that. And sometimes it is good to just put the phone down, put the watch down, walk outside,
Yeah.
breathe in the air.
Oh, that's kind of a good tie-in to our main
Good-
topic, Jason. That
Yeah,
was
good segue.
yeah, I think so.
All right.
Ready?
Are we ready to do? Are you done with your week?
I'm done.
All right. Excellent.
It's too much. It's too much light.
Christ, Dave. Are we good? You all right now?
Don't worry. Don't be distracted. I'm good.
Oh, I'm distracted. I'm 100% distracted.
You sure?
Yeah.
I
for sure.
can't imagine why.
No, me either. So, all right, I'm gonna try to get in. I'm just gonna close that tab or just like minimize it so I'm not looking at you. But yes, Dark Side of the Moon, as we mentioned, 50 years old. It just turned 50 on March 1st of this year, and boy, oh boy, lots to get into. And what we normally do is I like to kind of talk about our history with whatever the topic is whenever we do one of these anniversaries, be it movies, music, whatnot. So I figured we'd get started with that. Did you want to start or did you want me to start?
No, you can start.
All right. So I'll fully admit throughout my whole youth when I was really into music, because we've talked about it at length on the show that music was an important thing in our lives, especially for me growing up as a teenager. But one thing that I was never really exposed to was Pink Floyd.
Mm-hmm.
It was just not in my circle. And none of my friends were really into it. The only thing that I really knew of it is like a random track I'd hear on a rock station every once in a while. And
Right.
The biggest one always being The Fucking Wall, which, all right, if anybody out there likes The Wall, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there. It's another high-selling album, very popular. I fucking, like, specifically the song The Wall, I fucking can't stand. Like, I fucking hate that song to this day. Hated it when I was younger. I fucking hate it now. The last thing I want to listen to is a bunch of fucking kids singing in their stupid British accents about teachers and leaving them alone. It's like, shut up. Shut up. I don't
What do you
like
mean?
you or your stupid fucking accents.
If you don't eat your meat,
And if we
you
have
won't get any pudding.
if we have any listeners who are from the UK, I don't mean to offend you, but learn to talk better. Like, learn how to speak American accents.
I don't mean to offend you, however. Talk better.
Yeah, be not you. Just be anything but you, and then we'll get along just fine. But no, I hate The Fucking Wall, the song. So yeah, for years, no exposure to Pink Floyd whatsoever. Then one day I hear the song Comfortably Numb. I'm like, okay, I actually like that. That was pretty good. Then they actually had a video come on MTV at some point in the mid 90s for the song Learning to Fly. And because as we've talked about at length before, like I got most of my music exposure from MTV in those early days. So I
Right.
heard Learning to Fly through the music video. I'm like, okay, that was kind of catchy. But otherwise, they were not on my radar whatsoever until I actually moved in with Kristen when we got our first apartment together in 98. And this was around the same time where that story about the Wizard of Oz and Dark Side of the Moon, which we'll talk about a little bit later, and that whole how they sync up and everything. So I remember Kristen had done that with, I think, a relative of hers. Like they had done the put on Wizard of Oz, play Dark Side of the Moon, and I remember her coming home and being like, "Oh my God, we did this thing, and it really synced up." But at the same time, this album was actually really good, and I'm like, "Huh, that's interesting." So we did the Wizard of Oz thing. So she got a copy of the CD. We put it on, did the whole thing in our apartment back in. This was probably late '98. And the whole time, like, yeah, there were some neat coincidences and all that. But I'm listening to the album itself. I'm like, holy shit, this is actually really good. And from that point on, I was fucking hooked. So, from that moment, we already own the CD, and I have probably listened to this CD, no shit, at least 200 times, start to finish. Because I average probably about 12 times a year, sometimes more, sometimes less, depending on my mood. And yeah, I've legit listened to this album start to finish hundreds of times since first being exposed to it back in '98. But before that, I had no visibility on it whatsoever, except maybe the song Money, because that was like the only single that ever got play, which by the way is my least favorite song on the whole fucking album.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just absolutely loved it. I started going more into their back catalog. I started getting into a lot of songs, like Welcome to the Machine, Wish You Were Here, yeah, Comfortably Numb, like I mentioned. So I started like, getting into the rest of their catalog and picking out stuff that I liked. And I call up, I don't remember if we were texting or if it was an email or something, but I remember several years ago, I was talking to my friend from California, the guy that I went to the Guns N' Roses and Metallica concert with. He and I were like, like really in sync with the music that we listened to. And we were all into the hard rock and shit like that. And I'm texting him one day. I'm like, dude, why did we never listen to Pink Floyd when we were growing up? And his response was fucking hilarious. He's like, because we didn't smoke pot. I'm like, oh, okay. I guess you got me there.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and I think it's something to talk about as we're talking about some of the flow of the album.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. There's obvious. If you were under the influence of drugs, it would
even alcohol. Like,
yeah, it would definitely have a different effect.
Yeah,
as it were.
But yeah, to wrap it up, my exposure came with that whole hype with the Wizard of Oz, but then that turned into me just absolutely loving this album and listening to it. Well, I've probably listened to it 15 times in the last month, just getting ready for the show, like during my morning commute and everything. So that's my basic history with this.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. What do you got? Dude, you are driving me fucking crazy with the lights over there.
I'm trying to get the lighting right.
I think it's not worth it at this point. Just move on, man. Just let it go.
I can't.
I should have a drop. Let it go.
Yeah, you really should. Honestly, you'd be playing it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So here's the deal. My parents, to my knowledge, were not Pink Floyd fans.
Really?
Right. So this was not an album that I remember hearing being played in the house.
Mm-hmm.
So because of that, my exposure to this album was limited, just solely based on that.
Right.
And I've talked about it before when we've done our music episodes that growing up in the greater Philadelphia area and having access to several different classic rock stations, or just rock stations at that point, right? Because you're talking about the 80s. This music wasn't that old.
Yeah.
And my exposure to what Pink Floyd was and what was on this album came directly from that. Now, saying that, in Philadelphia, we have this disc jockey. His name is Pierre Robert, right?
What a name.
Yeah, and the fact is, if you Google right now Pierre Robert, and you look at, like, I haven't seen him recently, but I've actually met him a couple times, and his beard is your beard right now.
Yeah.
Like the white beard, like the thing that you got going on is your beard. And he's a hippie from San Francisco. But he's like, he still does this or he used to. I don't listen to terrestrial radio that much anymore, but he used to do this thing with like he would go into they maintained some vinyl in the studio at WMMR, and he'd go and he'd do vinyl cuts of a particular album. But he was like, they would have like these, like, okay, we're playing A to Z's, or we're doing this or doing that, and like he would get into more depth of what was going on with a particular album. So you were getting more B-sides, you were getting more deeper cuts of an album. So if you were driving down the shore, or you were doing something where you listen to the radio for more than an hour or so, and you just happen to catch it, like you'd get to hear a little bit more. So that being said, I heard a couple of these songs that way.
Right.
But then after, like, once I got into a point where I was listening to my own music, Pink Floyd kind of fell off.
Sure.
And I just had no care about it whatsoever. In fact, so much so that I really just, I am not what one would call a Pink Floyd fan.
Sure.
It's not one of my bands. It's not even in probably my top anything band. Like, honestly, they have some good music, don't get me wrong, but it's not in my top anything. I think for me, Zeppelin is better.
Well, it's a very different style of music too.
True. And I'm for me, it's all about how I listen to stuff, and me being 47, sitting here, that's how old I am, right?
I'm 46, so
47.
I'm 37?
Yeah, I think I'm 47. Anyway, that sounds right. Yeah,
that just reminded me, sorry, sidebar, but I can remember looking forward to the day I turned 37 and just being able to post on Facebook, I'm 37 in all caps. And I remember doing that. And then I'm like, wow, that was 8 years ago, 9 years ago. Fuck. Where the hell did the time go? Time. We'll talk about time.
Yeah.
And time slipping away when we get into some of these songs.
There.
Yeah. So anyway, continue.
So anyway, I say all that to say this. I listened to this album. I went on Apple Music, and we'll just we'll slide right into how we consume this.
Sure.
So since I really don't care for Pink Floyd at all, and it just was never something I was into, and never really understood why people were so fucking, oh my God, this fucking music is right. I'm just whatever. So when I downloaded the album with my Apple Music, I made sure I got the 50th anniversary album, because if there was any kind of bonus stuff, I wanted to make sure I had that for the show. And I listened to it straight through, like actually sitting here in the house. Like I was working on something. I don't know if I was Legoing or I was doing something. And I actually listened to it on my little shelf speaker setup that I have. And it was a different, I think because I'm in a different headspace in my life, as somebody who's in their mid to late 40s than I was like as a younger person, that I can like kind of just shut up and listen.
Sure.
And I just like, oh, okay, musically, I get it. I kind of get it. Like, does that mean that this now cracks and all of a sudden, like, oh, the dam is open and all this? Like, no. But I can certainly appreciate what the album was, and I didn't have a problem listening to it all the way through, and understanding that. And what I really appreciated was the fact that I could listen to it like a record.
Yeah.
Like I put the needle down and it just plays until it hits the end.
Right, because that's the whole thing about this. This is not a traditional like music album that's just got a bunch of singles and a bunch of songs all jammed together. This is like it's almost one continuous song. Like everything flows together. It's not meant to be broken up into different sections or different songs. It's a whole experience. And it's the best way to consume this is to listen to it from start to finish. Because it even the themes and the lyrics in the different songs that go along, they all kind of tie together into one overarching, you know, message, I guess. And
Yeah.
yeah, and it's like you can't just listen to individual songs from it because you'd miss so much.
No, I agree. I agree 100%.
Okay,
How did you listen to it?
so I mean, I've owned this on CD. Like I think we had at one point 2 copies of the CD back in the day, and then one of them got broken or lost. We still got one floating around here somewhere in the house. I had a what they called a DTS CD, I think, and it was this trend that was going around in the early 2000s where it was like music in surround sound. Like if you had like a Dolby, like five channel sound system, it would put the whole album in surround sound. So I had a version of it in that. And then, of course, as soon as things like Napster and Kazaa were big, I immediately downloaded digital copies of it just so I could have it on my portable music players. And then this last time, like you, I listened to it through Apple Music. I didn't do the 50th anniversary. I just did the classic, just Dark Side of the Moon album. But it's been in my playlist forever. Like as soon as I subscribed to Apple Music, it was one of the first albums that I added, you know, along with fucking Pet Sounds and Sgt. Pepper. You know, this is like those are my three. Well, there's a fourth album too, but of like my all-time favorite albums.
And
this
that's awesome.
one's right up there.
I know what's funny too. It's like you tell that story about how you and Kristen kind of connected with this, and I think that has a lot to do, like just like what we were talking about with the Gershwin CD that are, you know, that version. There's music has such a important connection to what we do emotionally, right? And if you didn't have that connection with Kristen, you probably I doubt you trip over to this album again, like in that same way, because even though you're musically like you probably mature still the same way, but like you know what I mean, like it doesn't hit you the same way.
Right. If it didn't hit me at that point in my life with her, you know, maybe it never would have caught on and I'd have been kind of like you, like not really seeing what the point was up to this point.
Right. The point.
So point. Yes.
Point.
I say a lot of words the same time. It's something I always try to work on, but
point.
Yeah. So you have a note in here about specifically the album cover.
Oh yeah. So I just, cause it was the 50th anniversary, I guess there was like it read to me like something you read off the jacket. And if you have Apple Music, like I know there's a lot of non Apple people out there, which by the way, sidebar, like my cubicle neighbor, the contractor Q, the guy who replaced Nick, he doesn't have, he's an Android guy and he doesn't do any like music subscription or anything. So like when he listens to stuff, it's on YouTube and he has these constant interruptions with fucking ads and shit like that. And I was talking to him about like listening to an album. He's like, oh, I miss being able to just listen to the music straight through. I'm like, fuck,
you can do that now.
Like, you are an adult. Spend a couple of dollars, couple of your hard-earned dollars.
Yeah.
And fucking when you're sitting in your car, fucking have this experience. Because I you talk about how we listen to this, like I have a newer. I just got recently. Remember when I was late because I bought a car. It was this whole fucking thing,
right?
Yeah,
you just randomly bought a car one day, and
right, yeah, because that's what you do. God, this is the worst ever. Saying all that, the only thing if I could say anything negative about that car is that was better in my other car was the sound system.
Oh yeah.
Like my other car had like this like high end Sony sound system in it with a sub, and when I played music in it, like if I all the remastered stuff that's in the Apple library, like, and I wanted to listen to some Tool or some immigrant song or something like that, and I'm listening to it, I'm getting a great sound, and for me that was as good as putting a fucking set of high end headphones on, because that's the experience I want to have. I spend 2 hours a day in the fucking car. That's the experience I want to have. I'm not getting the same experience in this car, so I got to remedy that with some aftermarket shit. Shut up, Swede. Android, whatever, loser.
Yeah.
Fuck Android, exactly. Anyway, back to this jacket cover. Where it starts out with the first line of it is, "The dark side of the moon is a little like puberty. Feel how you want about it, but you're going to have an encounter it. You're going to have to encounter it one way or another.
That's fact.
Developed as a sweet-like journey through the nature of human experience, the album not only set a new bar for rock music's ambitions, but it also proved that sweet-like journeys through the nature of human experience could actually make their way to the marketplace. A turn that helped reshape our understanding of what commercial music was and could be." And it talks, more about just other stuff, but it's actually, it finishes up with, "Although the dark side of the moon would be a precedent for arty post-psychedelic voyagers like OK Computer era Radiohead and Tame Impala," never heard of. Have you heard of that? Tame Impala?
So. No.
It also marked a moment when rock music fused with electronic sound, which we'll talk about. A hybrid still vibrant more than 5 decades on. The journey here was ancient, but the sound was from the future. So,
yeah. Yeah, and I like that whole like puberty thing. Like you're gonna come across it eventually, and I think you kind of alluded to it before, where depending on where you are listening to it in your life, it could have a different meaning. Like it has a completely different meaning to me now than it did even a couple of years ago. And as I'm really listening like these last few months, and I'm really trying to let the lyrics kind of like soak in, I'm like, holy fuck. Yeah, this is so much deeper than when I was initially listening to it and just kind of listening to it as like surface level music. It's it's good, and we'll of course get into it. But all right, so is that it for the album cover?
Yeah, that's I just wanted to hit the high notes of that.
Okay.
So those of us who are a part of the cult, the Apple Music cult, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, we are the best too, because we don't have to watch YouTube as a way to consume our music and then sit through ads and all that bullshit.
Right.
We can just listen. We have like damn near every bit of music in the history of humanity at our fingertips.
Yep.
Like you can't beat that.
My
for the price of one album that we would pay back in the day, $10 a month, you can listen to everything.
Honestly, here's legitimately, because there's Spotify's out there and everything else, right? And Spotify, sure. I have trust issues with Spotify for some reason.
Okay.
They may be unfounded, but I have trust issues with Spotify.
Sure.
The biggest thing for me is all the MP3s that I've collected over the years. That stuff that has been collected now I can still use.
Sure. Yeah.
Like I can have that over all of my Apple devices. Like I don't have to manually update it to everything, which if I could, I'm sure I could do that with a Google phone or whatever. I just have to, move them around and do some manual shit. It's part of my my library, and it's just part of everything else.
Yep.
So anyway, whatever.
Yeah, and it's already starting to get this big Apple versus Android.
I know, I love it.
Discussion going in the chat, but we're gonna ignore that.
We'll stir.
Yeah, we're just gonna plant that seed, and we'll let you guys fight over it in the chat.
And go.
Some interesting facts about the album. Depending on which chart you look at, it is considered to be the 4th highest selling album of all time. 45 million copies sold. That's pretty fucking good considering all the music that's been out there over the years. Number 4 of all time, not fucking bad. And I wanted to take another little sidebar. Dave, without cheating,
All right.
can you guess? I'm actually looking at the top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 albums of all time. Do you think you might be able to list some of them for me?
Of any album of all time,
Mm-hmm. And I can tell you,
any genre.
yeah, most of these came out in 1970. Yeah, 73 is actually the earliest. Pink Floyd is the oldest album on this chart. Everything else is since then. But nothing past the 2000s.
Yeah.
So we're basically going from 1973 to, we'll say, 2000.
Michael Jackson got one of those in there.
Which album?
Bad.
No, come on, Dave.
I don't know.
It's Thriller. Thriller is the
Thriller.
number one selling
Thriller.
album of all time.
All right.
Yeah, that's number one and has been number one for quite some time.
Right.
I'm shocked by number 2, quite frankly.
Number 2. I'm
And
just trying to think. It.
2 and 3, honestly, I'm shocked by.
Of all time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not. It can't be a Beatles thing
No, it's not.
because we're not talking about the right time frame. I don't know.
It's from 1980, AC/DC's Back in Black.
No shit.
Now again, this is, there aren't 100% accurate lists out there, but this is just one I'm looking at from Wikipedia. Number 3, I doubt you'd ever guess, but it's the Bodyguard soundtrack with Whitney Houston. I mean, and we talked about it when we talked about the music of, I think it was 92.
92.
92.
I'm 37?
And yeah, we knew it was fucking everywhere. Like that song was on all the fucking time. I didn't realize that album was like one of the top selling ever. Then we roll into Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon. Then we have 2 Eagles albums, their greatest hits, followed by Hotel California. Fleetwood Mac's Rumors, another fantastic fucking album. I love me some Fleetwood Mac. And then Saturday Night Fever, of all things, from the Bee Gees.
Is still up there
Yeah.
in album sales.
Yeah. Crazy, right?
That even with digital. So
now we're talking a whole other thing here, because for all intents and purposes, there are no album sales anymore, right?
Right.
It's yeah. And oh god, that was the story of our 1992 and 93. Just forever. They never stopped playing it. Anyway,
always love you.
So in this digital age, especially now in the streaming age, because when the digital age first started, Apple sold individual songs and albums and all of that, right?
Right.
But they even got away from that to where now everybody's doing these subscription models. I can't remember the last time I actually paid money for an individual song on Apple. It's just been fucking, you pay your $10 a month and you get everything.
And honestly, there's a point in time where I would let me buy this because I want to own it.
Sure.
I don't want to, if I somehow, if I fucking jump off of if I somehow remove myself from the Apple cult, right? Which is not going to happen.
Right.
I'm surrounded by it. Literally, it's got me surrounded. I have a cry for help. The cords. Anyway, there are lightning cables all around me. I want to be able to have I have this album. I have it in my possession and I can take it with me to whatever, because I have the MP3. I have a licensed copy of this file that I can own just like I would if I had a cassette or a CD or a cassette. Why did I say cassette first? Christ on stilts, I'm old.
Yeah.
Sidebar. So I was working. I was teleworking today because I'm sick, and somebody had posted in our message thing and used a little Dale Earnhardt icon, and he's a lieutenant. And I'm dude, were you even walking when Dale Earnhardt died? Because he died 2001.
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
And he's like, well, I was, 5 or whatever. I'm like, I watched that, like, that Daytona 500. I remember watching it live. I was on Alert of all things.
Yeah.
And I was watching it live, and I was a fucking staff sergeant.
Mm-hmm.
I was a staff sergeant watching that live when this lieutenant was fucking,
5 years old,
still wetting his pants. And I'm just like, oh my fucking God. Just so old.
Every year is getting shorter. Never seem to find the time.
Yeah.
See, it all comes back. It all comes
Yes.
back to that album and that theme of life.
Yes.
But, yeah, no, that's
hanging on in quiet desperation. All right.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know if these charts are ever going to be relevant anymore because nobody buys physical albums. Like, what was the last thing that you paid money for outside of an Apple subscription for music?
Well,
Like
I mean,
vinyl stuff.
Vinyl.
Okay.
I've bought vinyl just because I want to have a physical copy of the music that I can have in perpetuity. But that's for collecting purposes.
Yeah.
I spin the turntable probably not frequently enough, to be honest. I thought about playing some the Star Wars the other day, the original. I have the OG, and I'm afraid because it's the 77 pressing that I'm like, God, if I keep taking it out and putting it on there, I'm gonna ruin it. But what the fuck am I like? So.
Yeah.
So what the fuck else is it going to do? It's just going to sit there. Like I gotta listen to it. That's what it's there for.
Yeah. All right. Let's get into the album a little bit because we're already like over an hour in and we've barely talked about the actual album itself. And I'm about to take us on another sidebar, by the way. But we get this intro in the track that I lost my mouse. Sorry. So in the track "Speak to Me," where it's like it starts with the heartbeat, and you hear all of the spoken words. So these all the people that are talking that you hear throughout the course of this album are from these just like sit down kind of interviews they did. They like queued these people up with these questions, talking about dying and all this other stuff, and they took clips from all of that, and that's where you get all of this dialogue that comes through. And this was maybe 5 years ago. I was doing some research, and today I'm sure you've heard the talk, like the big buzzword recently in the entertainment industry is Nepo babies. Have you been seeing these articles about Nepo babies?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay.
Like I saw that in the notes and I'm like, what the fuck is that?
This is a thing that they're talking about a lot. Basically talking about how everybody in entertainment, like especially like new, young, hot acts, be it either actors, actresses, musicians, whatever, are all of people who are already famous in the entertainment industry. They're all like kids of famous people. And it's like this big thing.
So they're shortening nepotism?
Yeah. Nepo stands for nepotism.
Okay.
And how basically like every single person in entertainment is a nepotism baby, like came from some other lineage. And it's funny because I knew this years ago, because again, I'm thinking this was like 5 years ago. I'm looking up some stuff on Dark Side of the Moon just because, again, I love this fucking album and I love just finding random facts. Two of the people that do the interviews on this, the guy that's this is I've been mad for fucking years, absolutely years, and the woman that is saying like, oh, he was cruising for a bruising and all of that. Those are the parents of Naomi Watts, the actress, the hot blonde Australian actress.
No shit.
Yeah. The guy was like their road manager, was Pink Floyd's road manager that said that. And then the chick was his wife. And I noticed this years ago. And I'm like, that's such a weird coincidence that Naomi Watts would suddenly become this popular actress because, her parents just happen to be these, these insiders in the music industry. And then I just started paying more attention. I'm like, oh yeah, pretty much everybody like had some sort of fucking history. Either their parents were extremely wealthy or their parents or relatives were in the entertainment industry.
Well-
And you look around and you look at damn near every fucking person out there. Even fucking what's her name? Katy Perry. I was watching a thing on her not too long ago because, you know, her whole backstory was allegedly she she came from this like, you know, hardcore conservative Christian family, and you know, she broke out of that and did her thing. Well, what they don't tell you is that her mom dated fucking Jimi Hendrix for a little while, and her dad was a music industry insider. It was later that they found Jesus and all this, and they became like Jesus people, but they had those music connections. So she didn't come from humble backgrounds and like worked her way up through the ranks of the music industry.
What do you have against Katy Perry?
I have nothing against her. I'm just saying, like,
It sounds like you have something against her.
No. In fact, she's quite pleasant on the eyes most of the time when she's not doing the robot eye. But anyway, so yeah, it just like I noticed this years ago when I was doing research on Dark Side of the Moon, and ever since then I've paid attention. So when these Nepo baby stories started popping up, I'm like, yeah, fucking I knew that years ago.
I mean, honestly, this shit's been going on since the entertainment industry started. I mean, shit, Judy Garland.
Yeah.
You know, like Judy Garland creates fucking
Liza
Minnelli, and like you know the Priscilla Presley, you know, and you know, all that.
Fucking Carrie Fisher and
Right.
her mom and her daughter, and it's all
it's if you know, you know, right?
Right.
Look, it's whether it's in politics or in entertainment or the fucking New Jersey Air National Guard, it's fucking that's going to happen. Nepotism is going to happen. I mean, like, honestly, like, especially for like the Guard, right? You hear that all the time. Like, nepotism is a big fucking thing there. You know, if you're not one of like, okay, this name of this group of people, then you're kind of, you have to either work your way into that group or you're a little bit of an outcast.
Yeah.
You know, and you're not going to consider for promotions and things like that. Now, you know, the things based on merit, like you have to either be so good that you just can't be overlooked, or you're just fucking, oh well, you know, whatever. That sucks to suck.
Yeah.
Anyway,
that's all I had to say. Just something.
What are we talking about?
So we're talking about the voices, right? Because throughout the whole course of this album, well, that too. But yeah, they like all those voices are like one guy that contributes. I think the guy who says there is no dark side of the moon at the very end was like the doorman at the fucking Abbey Road Studios where they recorded this. So they just talk to random fucking people, and that's where you get all of these voice clips.
Sidebar.
So, yeah.
I'm going to do it this again.
Okay.
Dark Side of the Moon, right? When I, you know, thinking about this and I'm listening to the album and, you know, just close, like legitimately closing my eyes and just listening to the music, right? I had this thought of how many people have actually seen the Dark Side of the Moon, right? You know, like physically seen it.
And those few astronauts that went around it, right?
Yeah. And that number is so small.
So small.
And I'm like, God damn, it's such a fascinating, it's such a fascinating thing to think about.
Yeah.
And then the other thought I had was these fucking, I remember when the 50th anniversary stuff was happening in the beginning of the month, and like it was kind of coming out everywhere, and you had these like uber you know, conservative people that were like busting on it because like, oh, here's this
the rainbow thing,
woke shit with the rainbow, and I'm like,
it always had the rainbow on the cover,
right?
So
do you not know what a prism is? Like, do you not understand how light works?
I remember hearing a comedian years ago being like, well, why do gay people get the rainbow? I mean, it's just refracted light, you know, that's all of us, you know, why do they get to have it?
Right. Why do they get all the light? Why do they get all of it?
Yeah.
Can't we have some of it?
We
just get, well, I guess maybe white people were the collection of all the light. So maybe that's some analogous of like getting all of, do we,
I don't know if we want to go in this direction.
Let's forget that even came up. Let's just like not. Just pretend that we're just not
Got a
gonna
lot
talk
of
about that.
things to discuss.
Just, let's
Mainly Dark Side of the Moon.
yeah, let's talk about that. Let's talk about
All
that.
right. And before we even start breaking down these individual tracks, like we talked about at the start, how the whole album is like one like long fucking string of tracks that are all like a theme. And the theme really is like life. Life and eventual death, and it kind of goes through that cycle when it starts with fucking breathe. I mean, the first lyrics are breathe in the air. It's like a parent talking to a child that's just born, and you listen to the lyrics of this song, of the first song, and it's like, oh, that makes a lot of fucking sense. Because before I never like listened to the lyrics and really just like try to really think about what they were saying. It just, I thought it sounded cool, and it's just that really cool moody guitar and that the fucking the steel guitar and what are you doing?
What?
You are so distracting. This is killing me.
What? I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh my god. Yeah, not at all. Anyway, and yeah, it's like it starts off with the god damn it, you
Breathe.
yeah.
Breathe
Well,
in
it's
the air.
right. Well, even before that, it starts with the track called "Speak to Me," where it's the heartbeat, right? The doo, 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 doo. And then you hear all these other different fucking sounds. I was yesterday years old when I realized, as I'm listening to the album all the way through, I'm like, all of these random sounds that you're hearing are from each of the rest of the songs throughout the fucking album. I'm like, are you shitting me? As I'm sitting there listening to it, you hear the cash register from Money. You hear the guy running in the airport in Time. You hear you hear the alarm clocks for a second. You hear just like the guy laughing maniacally for the brain damage track. And I'm like, son of a bitch. How did I never fucking put that together until now? Hundreds of times I've listened to this album.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking like, okay, it's just like a random spattering of
I had no idea.
of sounds. And I'm like, wait a minute. That's pieces of damn near every other track on the fucking album. It's like they're setting the stage, right? And then it's you get the screaming right there. And then bam, doo, 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 which like Breathe, this first song is probably my favorite song on the album. Like especially if you combine it with Time, and then that where it rolls right into that Breathe reprise at the end of Time.
Right.
Like this whole first section is just fucking it just feels so good to listen to. It's like it's so moody with that slow methodical guitar, and again like you hear the steel guitar, and just a great smattering of instruments and sound effects. And yeah, it starts off with breathe in the air. And then he goes through this whole like list of things to do in life, you know, and, you know, leave, but don't leave me. It's like what a parent would say, you know? And then it rolls right into the Time where it's it's that like synthesizer. You hear the, and this is when you hear the guy running through the airport, and you can hear and it's like all meant to kind of symbolize like time. And then especially when you get into the song where it's talking about like the years just passing without you noticing. And I'm just like, fuck yeah. So it goes right into the whole the birth, and then like starts getting into the time ticking away basically.
Right.
And I mean, yeah, but before that, you get like more sound effects, right? You get the fucking just the jarring of like 50 fucking alarm clocks all going off at once, which
so if you were like me and you're just kind of like listening to it and being a little zoned out, and not realizing that the clocks were coming, and the jarringness of the fucking clocks. And my first thought was like, if you were on some sort of trip, like,
oh God, I can only imagine.
What would that do to you?
Yeah,
like,
you're like just like breathe is almost like putting you to sleep. It's like
right.
Oh,
You spent a good 7-8 minutes of the beginning of this, where you're just like everything's like real nice and like waveforms like this, and all of a sudden, wham!
Yeah.
Wake up, motherfucker! Ah!
Yeah, and like the thing that sticks out the most for me is my grandparents had a grandfather clock, right? That made those traditional dun
Bong,
dun
bong.
dun 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 dun. Doon, 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 doon. So I really picked that out of these like 10 fucking alarm clocks going off at once. But then, yeah, then it starts getting into that guitar and that like synthesizer, the doo, and that's when it starts getting back into the music, and it sounds fucking awesome as it's ticking up, and you still like had that clock ticking in the background, the tick 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 doom. And then it just like kicks right in. Yeah, like G-Force did it right in the chat. Ticking away the moments that make up a dull day. And then yeah, and it starts getting into time. And the lyric in time that really gets me every time. You are young and life is long and there is time to kill today. And then one day you find 10 years have got behind you. It's like, fuck. And how many times has that happened to us in our lives, right?
Oh, yeah.
You're in your 20s, you've got your whole fucking life ahead of you. It's like, oh yeah, man, I'm good. I'm fucking 20. Fucking, yeah, everything's all cool in the gang. Then you blink your fucking eyes and you're 35 and you're like, whoa, what the fuck happened?
Yeah.
And then you're like, well, you know what? I'm still 35. I'm young. My kids are getting older. Fucking life is great, right? Yeah, we're chugging along, continuing on with my career. You blink again and now you're fucking 45. And it's like, fuck.
Yeah. Now you're 45 and you're like, fuck, what's the average life expectancy of American
right.
male?
Yeah.
Like,
and that's, you know.
Shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's really funny too is like, you know, it's something I thought about when I was listening to this is, and this is my favorite track, by the way, off of this album.
Time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it made me think about, I legitimately didn't think I would live past my like 27th birthday. I had this like premonition that I wasn't gonna like whatever would happen. Like, and this is when I was young. Like it just this was the number in my head. Like this is what I was gonna do. So like made a lot of poor life choices, you know, up until that point. Because you know, and it's not an excuse for any life choices that you make for that reason.
We're certainly feeling the effects of those today.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
But in reality, it's like, you know, after that, it's like, okay, shit. It's fucking, like you said, it's every year, every moment, every month, every time I wake up, every time I put my head down on the pillow after another day, it's like, holy shit. Like that went by really fucking fast.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. It is amazing that when you're I think I forget who it was, but somebody used the analogy, and this song makes me think about it. They use the analogy of like when you're younger and you seem like you're going up that hill, right? Everything seems like it's taking so slow, and it's so hard to get up to this hill, and you're on top of it for so short a time, and then you have all this momentum and all this speed coming down the other side of the hill, and even though it's the same distance, it just feels like you're going that much faster. And
yeah,
it's
the
just
sun is the same in a relative way, but you're older.
Yes.
So they say.
Fun fact, something I learned today that I probably knew but never really thought about. Do you know that like when you're watching a sunset, the sun's not actually there?
Oh, it's the residual light like that hasn't gotten to us
Yeah.
yet. Well, what's the time for the light from the sun to reach us?
It's 8.5 minutes.
8.5 minutes. So it's there. It's just
it's
slightly
it's like 5 minutes ago.
Right.
So like the sun, because I've actually done it with the drone, right? When you're flying the drone and you're watching the sun, like the escape velocity of the fucking sun, once it like hits the horizon line, it goes really fast. It's not like by second, like it happens a lot faster, and
Sure.
I can totally see how that's that waveform kind of disappearing, and it's just after I saw something about that, and I'm like, fuck, yeah, I know why that makes sense. I just never thought about it that way.
Yeah.
So anyway,
And this next line just like really fucking hits, like especially my age now. It's every year is getting shorter, never seem to find the time. It's like fuck, like
so here's the thing we talked about it pre-show. This woman who's singing,
oh yeah,
Corey Davis, I think her name was.
something like that.
I like her voice sounded a lot like one of the women who sings with Jimmy Buffett on a lot of his albums.
Mm-hmm.
And as it turns out, it's not her, but
Yeah.
it just put me to mind of like the same voice, because it's amazing voice. I mean, it's perfect for the moment too. It's like
Yeah.
it's like this. It's hitting a part. It's hitting a spot that you like that no, it's just not being, nothing else that's going on can hit that. Only she can do it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Does that
Oh
make
yeah.
sense?
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's but we'll get there. We're not to that track yet. I know it all kind of feels like it flows together, but there is some more stuff in between.
It does flow together.
Yeah.
All of it.
And then of course I love the way this track ends and goes right into that reprise of Breathe, because you know the time is gone, the song is over, thought I'd something more to say. Boom. Doo-doo, and then they're right back to Breathe again. And that's kind of what makes this whole first section like seem like one long fucking track, right? Because they come back to that same fucking song, and it's home again.
Right.
And yeah, I love it. I love the guitar in this. I love this style of music that they're playing. And you know, again, you listen to the lyrics, and like the second part of Breathe, you know, when you come home cold and tired, good to warm your bones beside the fire. Far away across the fields, the tolling of the iron bell calls the faithful to their knees to hear the softly spoken magic spells. I wonder if that's like a religious thing. But either way, that's kind of where it ends. And then we get into, what the fuck is it? The Great Gig in the Sky is the name of that track, where it's just the girl just fucking wailing, you know. It's not much else but just the piano and then her kind of singing over it. And Claire Torrey, you said, right? Was her name?
I don't know. I'm trying to find it now,
Yeah.
and I'm failing miserably.
Yeah, which apparently she brought up a lawsuit against them years later.
Really?
Tried to sue them for songwriting royalties for this song in particular. It's like, how do you write this song? Like, what are the lyrics? That's pretty much it. It's just her going, whoa, whoa. Yeah, and then just, yeah. And again, it's so weird because you could never listen to this as like an individual track. You know, I don't think anybody in the history of music has said, I want to listen to The Great Gig in the Sky by Pink Floyd, and basically just hear the woman just like wailing. You know, that's because it's part of the bridge from the first part of the album, which was the whole Breathe and Time, now going into the second half with the money and everything else after that.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and then this is where we also get a lot more of those the quotes, like the people that they interviewed, like the guy that's like, I'm not frightened of dying, any time will do, I don't mind, why should I be frightened of dying, there's no reason for it, you got to go sometime. And I got to disagree with him on that one, because yeah, I still don't I don't like the whole idea of dying, and I'm still hoping to fight that off as long as possible, even though we all know it's inevitable, which is the shitty part. Like that's the shitty reality of this existence is, you know, doesn't matter how hard we fight, it's coming one day, whether we like it or not. Ugh.
Right.
And that's just depressing to think about.
No,
But yeah,
that's what your therapist is for.
I know, right? Jesus. And then we roll right into money, and this is where I kind of want to pause and talk about that Wizard of Oz tie-in, right?
Yeah, because I have no idea what you're talking about.
Really? You had
Yeah.
never heard that before?
I may have heard of it, but I never like was tracking it at all. Like
Huh.
I again could give two shits about Pink Floyd most of my life, so
That's fair.
it just never came up. So what are we talking about here?
So, okay. So there's this thing that happened in the 90s where somebody came up with this thing where it's like if you start the movie The Wizard of Oz, right? Turn the volume all the way off, and then on the second lion roar from the Metro Goldsmith whatever title track, it's the lion roaring. On the second roar, you start Dark Side of the Moon. Everything that's happening on screen syncs with stuff that they're singing about in the album. There's a lot of like crazy fucking coincidences with it, to the point where some people actually theorized that the band, as they were recording the song, intentionally synced it up to parts of The Wizard of Oz. And for anybody who wants to see this, they have YouTube videos that did this. They took The Wizard of Oz and they put Dark Side of the Moon over it, and you can see where it syncs up in certain spots. And it's a neat coincidence. And I say it's only a coincidence because Joe Rogan had Roger Waters on his show a few years back, and he asked him point blank. He's like, "What's with the Dark Side of the Moon Wizard of Oz thing?" He's like, "Because I've watched it before, and it's fucking crazy how much they sync up." And Roger Waters is like, "Dude, it's just a fucking coincidence." He's like, "We did not, plan this out whatsoever. I'm sorry to burst your bubble, but
That's awesome.
Yeah. But there are some really neat spots, particularly when the fucking tornadoes come into Dorothy's house. That's when it's the Great Gig in the Sky. The fucking lady going, whoa, whoa. It's the fucking tornado as she's like belting that out, like going through the fucking house, and Dorothy like getting the shit kicked out of her and falling asleep, and she's in the like dream state, and it's all of that. And then that calms down. The house lands. Right, because you remember too with Wizard of Oz, it's all black and white up to this point.
Right.
And it like the Great Gig in the Sky like flattens out and like starts to go down. Dorothy walks up to the door, opens it, everything's in color, and you hear the beginning of money. You hear the ching, cha-ching of the sound of money just as she's opening the door to the color world. So it's like, the movie is now in color, and this is the money. Look, I'm trying, all right? I'm just trying to paint the picture. I do not, I do not claim to have a good voice. I'm just trying to demonstrate.
Fake it till you make it, Jason.
Indeed. So, but yeah, and that's like the biggest crazy coincidence of this whole thing is like the second she opens the door to the color, you hear cha-ching, cha-ching, and then they go right into money. The song.
Okay.
Doom, 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 doom. So, and that's it. And then that's just the thing I wanted to talk about. I know a lot of people have done that over the years. Like I said, there's a YouTube video out there now that just does it for you.
Is that how it only goes to that point, or does it
No,
go
no,
further?
it keeps going, because when you get to Us and Them, when they do the part where it's black and blue, as soon as they say black is when the fucking Wicked Witch of the West pops out in that plume of black smoke. So, and there's all kinds of shit that just it's really eerie the way it all lines up. But
interesting.
Again, just a coincidence for the most part.
Right.
Come on, guys. It's fucking rough, man. Tough crowd.
Yeah, but he can play the guitar, so we're doing better than most,
I suppose. But yeah, so Money. This is the one song that I think most people are familiar with from this album, because this is the only one that they could really make a single out of, honestly, because everything else kind of like flows together. This is the only song that's like kind of has a start and a finish, but it even still flows right into Us and Them.
Right.
But they've still released it as a single. You hear it on the radio sometimes. This is my least favorite song in the whole fucking album. And it's probably mostly just due to being overplayed, but I also find it kind of weird about, these millionaire musicians lecturing us about how money is the root of all evil and all of that stuff. I'm like, kind of hard to buy it, but You know,
Yeah.
because it's a very cynical look at money and the accrue of wealth and all that. But that's, you know, it goes along with the whole theme of the album, the cycle of life, right? You know, so we've got the birth, the time portion, and now we're getting into the money part, right? And a lot of, you know, talking about getting a job and making more money and wanting more money and
Yeah, I mean it's a good representation of, like, you know, in that life cycle of having, you know, you need money to to
yeah.
buy goods and services, right?
Yeah, and
But
how it also turns a lot of people into assholes and
right, I
um
and the other thing is too. Hey Q, hi. I feel like my work cubicle mate has shown up because Pink Floyd's one of his jams,
yeah.
and I think he's checking in on me to see if I was actually sick today. Um, the but money is definitely one of those that, like, in in the Philadelphia area during this time period, like, they played the shit out of this song. Like,
Mhm.
it was played constantly, and it does it does get to that point where it's just like, all right, like, and between this and the wall, there was just a fuck ton of uh, you know, overplaying that was happening.
Yeah, and I for years I would skip this track when I would be listening to the album. I would skip Money and go right into Us and Them. But lately I've been trying to be like, no, no, it's still part of the overall experience. I get it that it was overplayed back in the day, but let's just try to
But if you're
just take
listening
it for
to
what it is.
if you're getting that, just like, hey, it's one smooth motion, right? The needle's not coming off the record, and you
Mhm.
just let it go all the way through.
Yeah.
It's not as bad because you're getting the full experience. In fact, like, it's when the clocks, honestly, the clock's starting is more of a fucking, like, a hard stop than
Right.
the rest of it. Like, some things just, you know, the rest of the album seems to flow in and out much better than that. That's the one fucking, like, speed bump, as it were.
Yeah, yeah. Um but yeah, I mean the song's fine. Like if you take a step back and you don't think about the uh you know, the overplaying aspect, it does have some good lyrics to it. Again, though, I do still find it funny that you know, band of millionaires is singing about how money is the root of all evil. Um
Were they millionaires at the time, though?
well, this was like their seventh album, so they had been making music for a while. They probably they I don't know, they might not have been millionaires,
I,
but
I mean, like, how much money were they really making back in those days?
I don't know.
I it's such a weird thing to think about because contracts and like, I think
And yeah, the
about
music
professional.
industry really fucked new artists too. They probably still do. But I know
Yeah,
back in the day, they really fucked those guys and girls and didn't pay
yeah.
them shit.
That, and I think about, like, even professional sports, right? You know, you think, wow, you know, the the mindset right now is like, oh, professional athletes are they make so much fucking money, but back in the day, they didn't make shit.
Yeah.
They really were just normal fucking jobs, and I'm not saying their compensation wasn't adequate for Pink Floyd, but
Well, we don't know,
I don't know.
honestly. Like,
I don't know that they were millionaires. I'm sure they had enough money to fucking do their tour and have their drugs.
oh,
Um,
oh yeah, and that's the thing we didn't talk about too. Was like I'm sure many a drugs were consumed
oh my
in the
god.
making, and then of course
Oh,
the listening afterwards of this
OMG.
song.
Like, if there wasn't drugs, well, let's face it. If there wasn't drugs, we wouldn't have half of the fucking more than
That
half
is
of the
true.
music,
Yeah,
good
like
music in this fucking era.
yeah, fucking Sergeant Pepper. We know that they were all on fucking LSD during that when we talked about Pet Sounds. Um, fucking Brian Wilson was quoted as saying, "Oh yeah, like I was doing like tons of marijuana at the time during the making of fucking Pet Sounds." So yeah, they
Do
were
you
all on
do
stuff.
marijuana? Is that a thing? Do you
I don't
do,
know.
like, I've been doing marijuana? Is that like
I
a
don't
thing?
know.
Like,
Clearly, I'm not a druggie,
yeah,
so
neither am I. Like, such
yeah.
fucking. I feel like, yeah, we're just, like, such nerds.
He smoked the drugs.
Yes, I did all the doings of the
Yeah.
drugs.
It's like that meme of Russell Wilson, like when he had his like hair in cornrows once, and they're like, he looks like a guy trying to pretend to not be a cop, and he's like, "Hello, fellow, fellow drug users," or no, what was it like? "Hello, fellow thugs. I'll take one drugs, please."
Yes. Do you care to distribute any of your drugs?
Yeah.
Question mark.
Mhm.
Yeah, just fucking awesome.
So then we roll into Us and Them, which is kind of like talking about wars. It's a lot of allusions to war and pitting people against each other. And the line that really strikes me in this one is, "After all, we're only ordinary men, but for some reason they've these leaders have pitted us against these other humans, and now we're all fighting each other." And then it's just
Right.
a lot of talks about fighting, and the front rank died, and the general sat on the lines on the map, and
Yeah, I mean, obviously, being, and we're getting close to the end of the Vietnam War, right? The when this is being written,
yeah,
excuse me, Vietnam War ends in 75, and
yeah,
this comes out a couple years before that. You still have, I don't know when the draft officially ended, but you have a lot of, a lot of people's, the anti-war sentiment is at its absolute, apogee. Apogee?
yeah,
Yeah,
apex,
apex, apogee. So, yeah.
either way.
So a lot of like these, you listen to these songs and like, yeah, they obviously are not part of that movement like they didn't get called up. They're not over there serving, but they're, representing the story of what, like, yeah, man, we're sending them off to war, man, right?
Yeah.
And the hippies are talking about, sending people off to war, and what their feelings on that is, or what their, the general. I think if you want to, if you're an anthropologist and you're going to look at 50 years from now, like, all right, 100 years ago when the Vietnam War was ending, what, how did the general public feel? Chew it. Chew it, I dare you.
Oh god, that would probably taste nasty.
Oh, it's awful. Don't do that.
Would it soak in faster if I chewed it?
It or put it like right here in your lip. Yeah, it'll
Bite it a few times and then put it right in your gums.
Yeah, and then you'll throw up because it tastes awful. Immediate bile bile production.
Yeah.
I know. I was getting ready to look at the camera. Damn it. Anyway, anthropologists will look back in another 50 years and go like, what did this war? How did people feel about it? And they'll listen to this music, and they'll get the assessment of what the general public thought about the war.
Yep.
And this song is one of those songs. Anyway, that's it. It took me a long time to get around to saying that.
And I mean,
I don't fucking feel well. I'm going to shine a flashlight directly into my own face.
And despite, oh my god,
that's
looks
bright.
fucking crazy on camera.
Ow.
Well, once your eyesight returns, you should go back and look at what your face looked like on camera when you did that, because that was pretty crazy. So despite this song having sort of like an anti-war type of sentiment to it, I still like it. I still really like the song, Us and Them. It's just very like slow and moody, and just it tells a great story, and I like it. I really enjoy it, and this it rolls right into Any Color You Like, which is another one of these sort of interludes where it's just like the instrument that it's like the synthesizer where it's that loud, that
man. I'll tell you what, they had, like, again, this is a masterclass in like, hey, what is this synthesizer thing? Like, what did that actually sound like? Oh, you want to know what that sounded like? All right, I'm gonna direct you to this right here.
Go to the track Any Color You Like, because that's
Right.
yeah, they turn it up to 11, so to speak. And it's great because again, I think it perfectly flows into the next song, The Brain Damage, which as time goes on, I relate to this song more and more than anything else. Well, you just saw me take one of my fucking happy pills, so
Well, that's not related to your brain damage. It's entirely.
well, when it talks about the lunatics in your head, yeah, it is kind of related.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I love the way it fucking rolls into the song, and that guitar that starts at that da 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 da, and then the lunatic is on the grass.
And the laughing in this track.
Yes, the guy that's maniacally laughing.
Laugh.
Yeah, fucking just it flows perfectly, and it's so weird too because in very few pieces of music in existence do you hear like this intermixing of people just talking, just saying random shit, or just laughing fucking maniacally, but
Right.
mixing it into the fucking the song to where it works, and
Yeah. How often in today's day in this age of music, right? Excuse me. In this day and age of music, like you could get how many minutes of this album?
it's only like 42 minutes. It's a
Yeah.
pretty short listen, very similar again to like other like Pet Sounds and stuff like that
Yeah.
we've talked to.
Like listen to 45 minutes all the way through, and you basically have one piece of music.
Yeah.
Like how would that fly? Could that?
Oh,
with
nowadays
this
probably
pacing
not.
and everything. Like I don't think people have the attention span for it anymore.
No, not
Not
today's.
unless they're under the severe influence.
Yeah, but like even if like the biggest stars of today, let's say Taylor Swift, decides she's gonna drop a bunch of acid and then just do a whole fucking concept album like this, like start to finish, how it flows the same way the Pink Floyd did. Like, would it work? Would all of the Swifties, dig into it, or would they be like, "What the fuck is this? This is all weird."
Can't go to a concert like that.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing. Like, you really can't. Like, I know they've done a lot of these songs in concert before, even like these interlude ones, like the fucking Any Color You Like and the Great Gig in the Sky.
So I just had I say this and I just had this thought, like, I've been to dozens of Dave Matthews shows. It's probably the most like when you go to those concerts, like he does a lot of like extended playing, like in between songs and stuff like that, where there's like just almost like this musical interlude, like
Yeah.
these extended versions of the song. Like there's like I'm not as big a fan anymore of Dave Matthews. Like I still listen to the music, but I leaned when at that age, I've bounced back from that and back into like, instead of listening to Dave Matthews, I'm back into like the Turbo on Sirius XM where I'm listening to the, the more metal stuff.
Mhm.
But in his shows, it was definitely geared towards that. All right, you're probably on some sort of drug, so I'm going to play something that is continuous so that I'm not affecting your
Right.
buzz.
So you don't have a bad trip and like starts feeding back on the guitar and they start clawing their faces
Right.
off. And...
Yeah. Play the fight riff.
Which, by the way, like the chat has devolved into just like talking all kinds of drug stories. Like people are talking about dropping mushrooms and fucking all kinds of
can't.
pot and
I'm so like prescription drugs I can speak to
yeah.
pretty well because I have my daily dozen, but the illicit drugs I am a moron. I have no clue. Like,
Same.
yeah, I am that Russell Wilson meme. Like, hi,
Two
hi,
drugs, please.
hi, fellow drug users. Can I have one of those drugs?
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, getting back to Brain Damage. Like I relate to this song now more than
Hey,
I used to, and
hey,
it's
Dave Dimension. Like this? Is this your drug of choice?
yeah. But yeah, the lunatic being in your head, and oh god, it's like I'm like fuck.
Yeah.
And you know, maybe that's an allusion to where we are in our life, because again, this whole album's about the cycle of life. You know, you're born, you deal with time, money, war with us and them, and then from war you go right into brain damage. Like fuck, that sounds familiar.
Right.
And then we get into the last track, Eclipse, which is kind of like signaling the end, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's and it's talking about all that you touch, all that you see, all that you taste, all that you feel, basically talking about everything you experience in your life. Like that's you know, everything. And you know, it kind of comes back to the very beginning too, during Breathe, where it's he mentioned something about, you know, all you touch and all you see is all your life will ever be, you know. So it's just kind of like bringing everything back full circle. Everything under the sun is in tune, but the sun is eclipsed by the moon. And that's kind of where the album ends. And it ends, this is another cool thing too, like especially if you're listening to it on a CD that's on repeat, or if it's on repeat like in your Apple Music or whatever, you know, it ends with that heartbeat again, right? The heartbeat that it started with, do 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 do, and it gets quieter and quieter. And if you
Right.
have your CD on repeat, then it just goes right from that right back into the fucking album again. So you hear the do 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 do, it dies down, and then
I'll
it
have to try
builds
that.
back up.
I'll have to try that in the car.
Because I've done that a couple of times. Because, you know, when you and I, well, you still have the commute, but when I had that 45-minute commute one way to work, like half the time I would just put on Dark Side of the Moon when I left my fucking parking lot. And just as I'm pulling into my fucking house, I hear him, and the sun is eclipsed by the moon. And then the fucking heartbeat just as I get home. And yeah, it's perfect. But yeah, if it takes a little longer, like if I hit traffic or something and the
Right.
CD's on repeat, then as soon as it ends, it just picks right back up again, like it never stopped. So you could just listen to it over and over on a loop, and it's just one long thing.
I picture Jason in that old green Hyundai he used to have sitting there, the dark side of the moon, sweating because the air conditioning's not working.
Yeah, yeah. You know, I didn't drive that for very long after we moved to Cherry Hill. I think it was only like a year or two.
Really?
And then fuck, what did I get after that? Did I don't remember now. I bought the Volt the Volt in 2017.
Right. It wasn't the Volt. You had the Mazda.
Yeah, that was after the Volt though. Fuck, I don't remember.
I don't either.
Yeah. Then one
had the
day you
Hyundai
find 10
forever.
years have gone behind you. Yeah.
Yeah,
you know,
right? No shit.
just like that. 10 years are gone in the blink of an eye. But that's the album. And again, I think it's fucking phenomenal from start to finish. Even with the song Money, I can forgive it because it's part of a greater thing. And it blows my mind that you are not as much of a fan of this as some of the rest of us. But I mean, I guess if you're just not exposed to it and you know, it's just not your thing.
Honestly, even now, like I think a lot of it has to do with attention span. Like I was sitting here, you know, the good news is it's only, you can do the whole album in 45 minutes.
Yep.
And what I do really like, and what I think would allowed me to kind of stick with it for the episode, was the fact that I just, in my head, I had this continuous like needle moving across the entire record and playing to the end.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's just none of these songs are going to crack my, you know, top lists. It's not bad music. I don't like hate on any of it. It's just not in my wheelhouse.
Okay, and that's fair. It's like I'm not trying to force it on you, but at the same time, I am surprised that you don't care for it so much. Whereas
you know what's
I'll continue to listen to it like 100 times a year.
Yeah, you know it's funny. Like Q, who's in the chat, you know, we had a conversation the other day about, you know, our favorite songs, or you know, favorite group from that era, and I was thinking about it, and really for me, I think about it as like if I'm going to listen to an album, right? Because I still think in albums, right?
Oh yeah.
Especially with those, because those bands produced albums. They weren't
Yeah.
producing like okay, here's this hit.
Right.
They're producing like these like rock anthems almost,
Right.
kind
And
of
that's pretty
competing
much what,
against each other.
yeah, that's what music's devolved into today. But back then,
Right.
yeah, they just,
So, and then for me, that's why I've definitely leaned towards Zeppelin being that, because I will there's songs like I'm not going to skip over most Zeppelin songs,
mhm,
but I would skip over quite a few Pink Floyd songs because that particular that pacing
mhm,
is not really where I'm at most of my life. Like I just
yeah.
my brain is like a fucking hummingbird heart, fucking just, and I need a little bit more movement most of the time.
Yeah, as
I,
we've seen just watching you throughout the course of
yeah,
this episode.
yeah. If you like, anybody who's watched this podcast, like what 6 years of this, right?
Mhm.
And as long as we've been live, I just I have issues. So, and I have had
Right.
since I was a kid, and just I need something that is it goes along at my speed, and Pink Floyd doesn't really operate on that wavelength for me. Like I said, it
Yeah.
doesn't. I'm not saying that it's like, oh, this music sucks. Oh, it's the absolute worst. Fuck this song. Fuck this album. Fuck you.
Well, I tell you what, here's what we're gonna do. 10 years from now, hopefully we're both retired for good.
No
Hope-
one told you where.
Yes, exactly. But yeah, hopefully we're both retired for good. Don't need security clearances anymore. Then you and I will each take one drugs, and we'll listen to
What?
this album again.
What drugs? Okay.
For the 60th anniversary, we'll each do one drugs,
All right.
and then we'll listen to it and see if it enhances the experience at all.
All right. Fair enough. One drugs.
Yes.
Like one. Do we like walk? Where are we gonna go? We're gonna, like,
Well,
we're
New
gonna
Jersey sells them
in-
now, right?
Are
We
we-
walk
well-
into the local drugstore and be like, "I'll take one drugs, please."
Oh, okay. Like we're don't have to go to a street corner and go.
No, it's all legal now.
Oh, that
And by
those,
then, 10 years from now, like everything might be legal, like fucking heroin and coke and all that shit. Like if certain people get their way. So,
I don't think we want to do heroin.
oh no, I don't
and
either.
listen to this music. I don't think
no.
that's the intent.
Right. Yeah, especially
I don't
fuck.
think
We
that-
get to the part with the great gig in the sky where she's screaming, ah! You're like, fuck! Or the alarm clocks for that matter. Jesus. Yeah.
Jump out of my fucking skin. Yeah, sure. I'll do that. You heard it here first, kids.
Yeah. So for
We'll,
hopefully for the 60th anniversary
Right.
in 10 years, we'll be done with our need for a job and we can
Right.
drop something and
Well, actually, in 10 years, I'll actually be eligible to retire from my GS job.
yeah, and that's my goal. My goal is 10 years at my current job and then be done working forever.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, that would be
Yeah,
great.
that would be great. We're gonna have to have you come in on Saturday.
Yeah, I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah, I'm not gonna go anymore.
Yeah. So,
Um,
anywho, anything else on Dark Side of the Moon before we close this up?
Nope.
I just want to say, as everybody can tell, I fucking just absolutely adore this album. I will continue to listen to it dozens of times a year, every year for the rest of my life, however long that life lasts, and until the sun is eclipsed by the moon, I'll continue to keep listening to it because I think it's fucking
Yes.
phenomenal.
And
It's-
I'm so glad that Jason has such a good experience with this album and
Mhm.
has listened to it so many times and has done all that research, because I didn't have shit for this episode.
Yeah.
Because of my lack of enthusiasm for it. So Jason, great job, bud. You
Thank
did.
you.
You carried me. You
Well-
carried the water the entire day.
Apparently, though, my singing was not very popular
Well,
amongst the
I mean,
chats. So,
Yeah,
gotta do what we gotta do.
You got to do what you do.
And one last time, I do want to thank my wife, Kristen, because she is the one who exposed me to this for the very first time. So
Right.
if it wasn't for her, I may be in the same boat Dave is right now and being like, what the fuck's the big deal?
Right.
But thankfully, I'm not. All right. So
I want you to take it right now.
Mhm.
I want you to take a guess at how many Stormtrooper minifigures are on my desk.
8.
8?
Yes.
Okay. Chat. I want you to guess how many Stormtrooper minifigures, not including the Bad Batch. Not including the Bad Batch because they're not Stormtroopers. I'm sorry. Specifically Stormtroopers.
Yeah. Throw out some guesses. I
Stop.
guessed 8 based on.
Stop kissing his ass with his singing. By the way, it's not.
G4 says 1. Lunar Girl says 27. Why not 37?
I'm 37?
Why 27?
That's a lot of Stormtroopers. I mean,
100 is a lot.
I have like, I mean,
Do you know the number? Like, do you have
Yeah.
a number for us? Okay.
yeah. Well, I mean, shit. I guess, an AT-AT driver doesn't count, right? That doesn't count as one.
Well, specifically Stormtroopers, no. He is not a Stormtrooper. He's a trooper.
How about Luke on a TomTom? Does that count?
No, that is not a trooper nor a Stormtrooper.
How about Dave on a stick? How about that guy? Dave on a stick?
Yeah.
Hello.
Woo. Wow. I don't know where that came from.
Dave's not feeling well.
Okay.
How about Dave and Kathy represented? Is that no?
Wait, wasn't that Bad Cop?
It's a bad cop head, very good,
Yeah.
but with a red hat. So that's me.
Oh, okay.
It's Kathy
And then
as
that's Kathy.
as Ray. She
Oh,
likes
very
Ray,
nice.
but with a regular ponytail because reasons.
Yep. All right. So what's the number? All right. We're all dying. In
The number is 9.
I was
there's
so close.
9. There's
9.
9 Stormtroopers, and I have like this audience style.
That's great.
Like they're underneath my monitor like this.
They
So I
look
got-
like they're in a choir, like they're about to start singing.
That's actually pretty funny. But yeah, they're in this like formation, so they're staring at me all the time,
Nice.
ready to go with their little fucking jackass fucking lieutenant. So anyway,
So we need to talk about the next episode because I think next week is the week that I cannot record on Monday. Let me just verify that. We'll do it live because I didn't do it beforehand, but we talked about this. Remember I got the movie tickets?
April,
Yeah,
something.
so-
I thought we were going to do it Tuesday instead.
Right. We did broach the idea, but I don't know if we ever landed on something specific. So
Broach or
okay, yep.
breached?
Does it matter? So yeah, I have
Like a
movie
whale
tickets for
coming
next.
out of the water.
I have movie tickets for next Monday. So
Right.
we have to swap our Bad Batch finale episode to either Sunday or Tuesday, whatever really fits your schedule.
I think Tuesday would be better for me.
Okay, then we'll do that. So no show next Monday. Instead, we will be on Tuesday to go over the Bad Batch finale, which should be coming out this week.
Right.
And yeah, we'll get into it and see
Have
how.
you been keeping up, or are you going to binge?
Nope, I have not watched a single episode since the last time we did Bad Batch.
Yeah.
I have kept up with Mando, but not Bad Batch. So I'll watch it all on, after today. I'll start
Okay.
getting caught up because I think it's Wednesdays or Fridays when the finale comes out.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think you have something to read, though.
Oh,
sir.
yes. I'm sorry. I have a prepared statement from Miss Lopez
Right.
that she wanted me specifically to read. So because she is unable to make it this week, but I'll get into this. Hennifer's message. Dear loyal fans, due to an untimely illness, I will not be able to grace you with my amazing presence this week. It's all Jason's fault. He will deny it, but it is. Since Jason is reading this, I ask you, remember to fluff your fuck pillow tonight and miss me. With chocolate-covered kisses, Hennifer. So that is the message from Miss Lopez, who could not make it tonight.
I'm so glad she's thinking about all of you.
Yes, and I'm so happy she brought up the pillow too, because
How could you not?
yeah. So in her place, Dave, did you want to read the Red 5 notes?
I have the Red Fives stuff.
Yeah.
I already mentioned after the weekend's going live at 2100, doing Ferris Bueller's Day Off. So do that. Special guest Nicole from the Used and Abused. Blah 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 blah. The Red 5 Network has 29 active podcasts and
I'm 37?
6 archive pods for a grand total of 36
I'm 37?
podcasts. Check out bio.link/red5. That's bio.link/red5. To browse this amazing lineup and click on a podcast for where to find them. Like I can move my head. I don't have a fucking puppet to manipulate.
Yeah.
There's something for everyone in the Red 5 network. Oh, okay. Used and Abused will be continuing their March music Cantina Family Happenings, by the way. I'm not used to reading this. Honestly.
Yeah, I know, right?
I haven't read this.
It feels so awkward.
I haven't read this in a while, so
Yeah.
it's Cantina Family Happenings. Used and Abused will be continuing.
Talk about lunatics in our head.
Continuing their March. Yeah, tell me about it. Their March Music Madness tomorrow with the music of New Kids on the Block. Blech. Join Scott, Kim, Nicole at 2000, 8 p.m. Eastern on the YouTubes. ATSW, the Escape Pod, returns on Wednesday to discuss The Mandalorian and The Bad Batch. They sent us a nice message the other day. I don't know if you caught that. It was
no.
They basically told us to go fuck ourselves. So
Wait, what? Oh, yeah. No, I did see that. Never mind.
Yeah. So, but which is good because that means they had to get on the air to actually tell us to go fuck ourselves. So
that's right. They actually had to do a show.
Yeah, welcome back, guys.
Yeah.
The ATSW Escape Pod returns on Wednesday to discuss The Mandalorian and The Bad Batch. Check out Don, Brady, and Dragon Buddy with their All Things Star Wars live stream. Look, things Star Wars. I'm grabbing the wrong side of my shirt. There we go. Thanks, Star Wars. God, I'm a mess. Where am I?
Miss Lopez does this so much better.
I know, right? On YouTube at 7:05 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The Red 5 Tavern has been getting exciting this past Friday. Luna Girl, Tina, Nicole, and Steve. All these great names, and they hit Steve. You know how many times I've been called Steve in my life?
Never, I would imagine.
A lot.
Really?
Dude. Like the default name, like when people walk up to me, they think my name is Steve for some reason.
I've been called Justin about 500 times in my life.
Yeah, isn't it weird? Like, like it's in your brain. There's like, okay, default naming convention for that face is whatever, and for me, it seems to be Steve. But anyway,
interesting.
And Steve were encased in black crystal somewhere in the Shadow Realm. Will Dragon Buddy, Sir Charles, and Aaron be able to save them? Check out the Red 5 Dungeons Dragons Sesh, Tales from the Bounty Board, The Shadows of Gangjor, Part 2. Oh, JLo should have totally read this. Friday night at 2100, 9 p.m. Eastern. Isaac, Lunar Girl, says this is your formal waiver. Sweet Studios has a list a mile long of projects that he has checked off, and now he waits for his contacts to complete their parts. We wish him well as he heals from his upcoming procedure.
Anal probe.
Yeah, giant one. Follow Sweet Studios on his socials for updates on his anal probe and give him a sub on YouTube. The Orange and Fetch Show released episode 71, Flight of the Navigator, on Spotify last week. Follow them on Instagram for updates.
I like that movie until the guy became the Pee Wee Herman voice. Like, then it got a little goofy after that. But up to that point, I thought it was a fantastic movie. Do you remember the movie?
I'm
Flight of the
trying.
Navigator?
I'm trying to think. It's puppets, right? I'm
No,
thinking
that
of
was the
something.
one where the kid was like abducted by a fucking alien spacecraft, like went away, like speed of light, came back, and it was like fucking years later. The fucking the time dilation that we talked about. Like they got into that. And like his little brother was now like a fucking like a adult, and his parents were really old, and the ship, the voice was Paul Rubens, Pee Wee Herman.
I was thinking Flight of the Concords. I think that's what I was
That's
thinking
very,
about.
very different.
That's-
Also very entertaining, but quite different.
I was thinking something completely different. That's with the puppets, right? Yeah. So that's my mistake. I don't believe that I've seen Flight of the Navigator.
Really? Oh my God, that was a
Yeah.
great movie.
Yeah, it sounds like I have to watch it. I enjoy that type of.
I don't know how well it holds up today,
Mm,
but
that's fair.
I guess listen to the Orange Vet Show and find out.
Exactly.
What a way to advertise them.
I was gonna say, what a way to
Words.
wave your arms. Oh, excuse me. Layman's terms, took the weekend off. Good for you, Keith. You deserve it. You
Oh,
take
Keith,
all
if
the,
you,
Keith, take all the time off you need. Honestly,
Yeah.
like if you want to take a couple weeks off, go to Vegas, do it,
yeah, and Keith, if you're listening, hit me up next time you go to Top Deck.
and you will do it.
How
Please
dare you?
please give him a follow on the socials and sub on YouTube for your primary source of ignorance and drunken banter. Are you ready?
Yeah,
You can find us at
it's not the same.
it's not the
It's
same
Not the same.
bio.links/the sidebar cantina, where you will find our links to YouTube, audio, Patreon, our latest Spotify music mixtape, and all social media platforms, including Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Twitch, Discord, TikTok, and we are now on Audible. Luna Girl added the shortcut to the top of our bio link, so go check it out. Also, in our bio link is our T Public merch shop. We have F Cancer. Good luck tomorrow. Helmet Fire. I know he signed off on the chat. He's got an appointment with an oncologist tomorrow. We have F Cancer and Jason Rose designs. Our super sexy Twi'lek. Sidebar Chick, our beloved Hennifer, who we miss very much. Our classic Sidebar Cantina logo. Two throwback designs from a Gen X point of view. There are t-shirts, hoodies, tote bags, phone cases, exclusive stickers and pins, wall art, magnets, notebooks, laptop cases, pillows, just about anything you can imagine. Please. Oh, no, that doesn't say please. Where did I get please from? I don't know. Make sure to tag us on the socials to show off that fine, sweet-ass merch. Reviews.
We got a new 5-star review on Apple.
Really?
And this is a long one too. So
Is there a voice request with it?
no voice request. So I'm just gonna read
Go
it.
for it.
All right. So this is from Emperor Grogu, and this came through last week, titled "Good Stuff." Once upon a time, two young men met each other and grew old together. They started a podcast and entertained many from around the world. Soon they were laughing with and at the chat audience. Then one day something happened. A hand became sentient and Hennifer was born. Her googly eyes are stunning and stare deep into your soul. I like pork chops. Friends have been made and good times had by all. Dave and Jason are the best. Why does this pillow smell weird? When will episode 150 part 2 be released?
Oh man.
Sometimes I sometimes watch on YouTube and eat carrots and potatoes. I want to thank these two gentlemen for all the laughs. I once walked through the woods whilst listening to this podcast. I was laughing so hard I almost wet myself. Once the hysteria subsided, I looked around and saw a bear. I waved and he waved back at me. Yes, I assumed its gender. I'm not crazy enough to get that close to a bear, silly goose. I resumed my walk and continued down the path towards the sunset. Then out of nowhere, a crazy man attacked. I screamed and ran away. The bear heard my call for help, and lo and behold, it was Dave in a bear costume. He whipped out his knife and threatened the crazy man. That's when I realized the crazy man was Jason. They recognized each other and wandered off. I don't know what's happening anymore. Can I get Hennifer's number? Question mark. F Cancer, 5 stars, best podcast on the market. Thank you.
That
And
was an amazing journey we just went on.
yes, and thank you to whoever Emperor Grogu is. They didn't sign their real name, so we may never know.
Apparently Lunar Girl knows, and
Oh.
that is a great handle.
Yeah.
And yes, that was awesome.
And that was obviously somebody very familiar with the show because there were a lot of callbacks in that review.
Yeah,
so,
no shit.
Going back to the early days.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah.
So
are we done?
No, please write us a 5-star review, much like that one,
Yeah.
on Apple or Audible. Luna Girl still has plenty of nifty Star Wars Valentines with temporary tats, along with plenty of swag for you. Don't have an Apple or Audible account? Our Facebook page has a review feature too. Just screenshot your review before you hit done and DM us the pic on Instagram or Twitter. This is your chance to tell us your thoughts on our show. Jennifer Lopez or Hank or Edith or Mama or Nasally Dave or somebody fun will read your review word for word on our next episode. And now I am done.
All right. And that's pretty much the end of the show. Oh, wait, hold on. Let me click that. And now that. There we go. So that's pretty much the end of the show.
Nice.
Hope you guys enjoyed it. It was a weird one, but I had fun, and I love this album, and I know a lot of the people in the chat do as well.
Yes.
Next week, Bad Batch finale. Gonna be good stuff on Tuesday.
Taco Tuesday.
Yes, it's raining tacos. And I guess that's it.
That's it.
My pills are kicking in, so I'm about to fall out. And yeah, thanks everybody for. I'm looking up here again, like the camera's up here, but it's not. Yes, thank you everybody for joining us in the chat.
Yes, thank you.
And those few of you who are still listening to us on audio only, we do appreciate you.
Yes.
And I guess that's it.
Yes.
Yeah. So what do we do now?
Okay, now what do I click?
All right. Well, for real. Thanks, guys. We love you. We appreciate you. You are the best. Thank you. And this is what I click. All right. That's the end of the recording. Oh. I can just do this now because we're not recording anymore. So I don't know why I did that.
I don't either.
Yeah. Seroquel's the best.
I need some of that.
Yeah, it's good, man. It's good shit.
All right. Well, you go enjoy yourself.
Yeah, and you get better. Get less sick.
I got to figure out whether or not I'm going to work tomorrow.
All right. Good times. Bye again, everybody. But all right. I'll hit you up in a couple of days and we'll see how things are going.
Can you still hear me?
I can still hear you.
How about now?
Yeah, but it sounds like you're far away from a mic.
How about now?
Still the same.
How about now?
Yeah.
Now?
About normal.
Huh. Weird. Because now it's purple.
What does purple mean?
I don't know. All right.
All right. I'm out for real this time. Ending the broadcast. Goodbye, people.
Bye, y'all.